Hey guys, this is Stewie from Cloud9.
Okay, this is episode 40 of Counterpoints, the big 4-0. So maybe one of us will have a midlife crisis, blow all of our money on a sports car to try and feel young. Hopefully it doesn't get stolen. Just starting like that, just going to come out the gates hard. Or maybe one of us will just start questioning where we are in life, break up a classic marriage partnership. Start with that, shall I? Anyway, so
oh my god.
Or maybe one of us, again, midlife crisis, stuck in a position in life where they're not where they want to be. They fantasize about being a journalist, someone amazing, just steal other people's ideas off Reddit and claim that they're actual sources. Imagine that.
We've gone the full
circle. Or maybe
haven't we?
one of us just gets grumpy one day, lashes out, like they do, says something a bit off key. Next thing you know, can't go to the major anymore. Could happen to any of us.
You've gotten all of us. That's not bad at all.
Could happen to any of us. Could happen to any of us. Well, actually, do you want to know something funny? Here's something I've never revealed before. So here's something that is even worse, right? So already I wouldn't have gone to the major anyway because it's in Poland and the history of all that stuff, etc. Thousands of people on their own Facebook accounts telling me they'd kill me. But even worse than that, it's worse than that, Moses. This is a detail not a lot of people know, so I'll give you this little gem. Among the messages that people sent me, 3 years ago saying they would kill me, one of them that always stuck out in my mind because it was just so evocative, the phrasing, was someone said, come to Krakow, city of the machete. So when they announced the major, I already wasn't going to go anyway because it's in Poland, Moses. But when I saw major announced in Krakow, I was like, definitely not going there. So even if I was to go to Poland, I don't know what it is, but tourism board hasn't really sold me on that one there.
Did you at least respond to that message and just, I don't know, give him like a good fuck you?
No, because the problem was I was in Poland at the time, still in the hotel room. So, believe it or not, Moses, I know I've never taken this course of action before in my life, but I thought, why throw fuel on this fire? Let it rest.
That's rare.
Let it rest. There was also people, by the way, who messaged me, and they actually said to me, what hotel are you staying in? I'll come and kill you. You know what? Didn't reply those messages either. I know their plan was very sneaky. You can see how they were trying to trick me there, Moses. If I'd have given them my hotel, they could have killed me. But joke's on them. I didn't give them my hotel. I'm alive.
It's a good thing, Duncan, because on the last couple days of the major, some player let loose which hotel we were staying at. So every day we got home, there was about a crowd of like 200 Polish people waiting outside the drop-off. So that was awkward.
Did they seem like they were smuggling something about the length of an arm?
All I thought was this would be a
Krakow natives by any chance?
This would be a perfect place to kill Duncan if you were here.
That's what a lot of them were thinking as well, ironically. Sadly, I wasn't there. So, anyway.
Better luck next time.
Right.
Well, I've only had since I guess this is where we're starting the show. I mean, I'm not in charge, but I've only had one esports related death threat. So
yours was justified.
And you went to that major.
And I went to that tournament anyway. Yeah. I was told I'd be sent home in a box if I came to the airport. So it's good times.
Joke's on you. He actually thought you were a tortoise. There's one for the kids there. It was pretty harmless, that one, right? It was pretty tame.
That was good. We're starting off low. I like that.
It's wholesome.
Yeah.
DK, any death threats?
Not yet. I haven't pissed off the right people.
Oh, okay.
Like Richard seemed to think that I've been dealing with a lot of shit. I don't know. I haven't pissed off the right person yet.
The thing about esports is you're nobody in esports until someone wants to kill you. That's actually the metric that we use. Yeah. That's why actually Sadikist is the most popular person in esports. Think about it. And that's just with his co-workers. But enough about that. But anyway, we're off now. Yeah. That joke was approved by a friend of mine who wants to remain anonymous, called Anders B. Loom.
Listen. I still don't even understand the source of that joke. I swear someone just said that one day, and then other people started saying it, and no one ever told me why. So
that's the best. Here's the best part, Anders. I actually don't remember where it came from, but the fact that you don't know and that sort of irritates you means I'm going to keep doing it a lot more now. Like that's going to keep going a lot more.
It was
just like Moses and the creamy couple.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, does it?
It's brilliant, though, isn't it?
You have to embrace it if you want it to go away.
Embrace the meme.
No, it doesn't work. I've tried everything with creamy, everything. I've embraced it. I've fought it. It doesn't go away. Like Kirby's.
You've got to embrace the meme. Either you take the red pill, you see how far the meme goes, or you take the blue pill, embrace the meme, wake up in your bed tomorrow, still with whatever you had. Just your life. Your life, obviously. I don't know why I even phrased that. That's weird. Why would I phrase just your life that way? But anyway, there's a silver lining to everything. And on that note, we've got an episode to talk about. So here's the thing. I didn't prepare anything for this show. I've actually never prepared anything for any of the shows, but I don't know why I'm saying it like that, like some revelation. But DeKay knows loads of stuff, reads a lot more Reddit than the rest of us, and so what? Should we just
start with the roster change, Duncan?
Yes.
Should you just pick a roster
Tell us
change?
something interesting in the roster world, and we'll discuss it in an analytical and/or humorous fashion. Perhaps referencing Sadikist. See what we can do. Go on, see what you can do.
So you want a roster? Let's talk about Guardian in that whole situation.
Yes. So a lot of people might not know this, okay? Because I've mentioned this many times before. Moses has heard it many times. You have to understand that the demographics of esports means that at any point in time, it's supposedly that like half the people roughly have been around a year or less, because since esports has gotten bigger and bigger over the years, So that means that we take it for granted that we can at least talk about, like Luminosity when they were Fallen and no, that's before the 1 year. So actually that's already at the cutoff where when I now explain Luminosity, I just had to explain that wasn't the team I'm talking about that had K and G on. It was the team that had Fallen and Fern and then became SK Gaming. So as a result, people won't know this, but Anders was one of the maddest Guardian hype beasts of all time. Like, by the way, you're thinking, well, Guardian was sick, 2015, 2016. Oh, no. Just when Guardian even started CSGO, Anders never shut the fuck up talking about this guy. Just raving, saying he was the best player. By the way, even when Kenny S was the best player, Anders still used to go on about Guardian. Oh, he's fucking sick. And so, I'm just going to put that out there. Anders, what do you think of Guardian? Broken down old Guardian go into FaZe, Land of Money.
I like that setup. I think it's
not a loaded question in any way.
Yeah, it is a loaded question. I mean, I think it. Listen, if he was replacing somebody, like if he was replacing Carrigan in that team, I'd be horrified. Then that would look bad to me. But I feel like it's a reasonable switch, and I still think Guardian has like a much higher level. My biggest concern with Guardian is like that he just seems to be a very emotional player. I'm not sure he copes particularly well with dissenting opinions within the team, and I mean to my point, I don't think it ever made sense to have him and Simple in the same team. I don't see those two personalities getting along that well in the long run. So, but yeah, I still think he's a super good player. I think he's been off his form. I mean, even when people were saying now during the major and before that that like he was coming back, I don't think he's anywhere near back. Like not to what he could be.
While I agree with that statement, the problem is we have thus far not found any 4-man unit who all get along with Simple. So join a queue, take a number and join a fucking queue, mate.
Yeah, no, I mean that's
mental, isn't it?
Fair point. Yeah.
Come on, Moses.
Dude, I like this change a lot, but here's the one thing that I hate in terms of it is the narrative that's being spun around this, like Alu didn't deserve to get replaced or something, and it's not about being deserved, right? Like, we can all just flat out say Alu got a little bit the short end of the stick on this one. Like he wasn't playing bad per se, but when you have a chance to get Guardian, and especially the Guardian that we saw in Cologne, the Guardian that we saw at the Major, you just fucking do it. It's an obvious upgrade, and Alu, he was contributing, he was having a good performance in FaZe. It wasn't anything special, wasn't anything breathtaking, and I think that's the big thing. Guardian coming in as an opper is someone who can provide a lot more and a lot more variety in how he ops than Alu can. So in this situation, it's just like it sucks for Alu, but you have to make the swap if you're FaZe. You just say, we have one of the best oppers of all time, someone who's bouncing back right here. He wants to join join our team. He's available. We're going to get him. And that's the move they should have made. And I really, really like this move. I think it's going to provide a third option for Kerrigan to utilize to open up rounds, to create some opportunities for Nico, create some for Rain. And this is your ideal situation as well, Duncan, where Rain gets to be that third star now. You know, they have Guardian in there now, so he can be 1 or 2 behind Nico.
Yeah, and I agree, by the way, that's a very good way to set up the context, because you notice if I ever do videos or I address roster moves, I never do it like black and white style, like, okay, this player should join, therefore the other player was worse. It always has to be like the context of who is the team and what should their expectations be. So one of the reasons famously why for the last couple of years, a lot of people have thought I was a Nip hater, even though, again, to reference history, Anders, in the early days, Nip used to win all the time, so everyone thought I was a Nip fanboy because I said they were the best, you know. So the reason why people think the reason why people thought I was a Nip hater is because I would criticize them in like 2015. You know, when they would used to come like second and top 4 all the time, but people didn't understand. The expectation for Nip at that time is to be the best team. So if you're not the best team, you have to keep asking the question, what are they doing wrong? What could they improve? You know, like, someone like Exist was still a decent player, but if they could upgrade him, you've got to take that chance if you want to be the number 1 team. So it's the same thing to me about FaZe. I agree, they were obviously a fucking sick team. Alu, I think, played a pretty good role in that team. But if you get a chance to potentially upgrade, especially in a world where you just never beaten SK Gaming, your number 1 mission in FaZe at this point in time almost is just figure out how to beat SK Gaming. Anyone who can help you do that, it's worth a gamble at this point.
Not to mention, you're not going to get a player of Guardian's caliber who not only wants to leave Na'Vi, and who also the organization is willing to make that happen. Like, you know, that's one of those things where all the pieces fell into place, where this is like, you know, both organizations saying, let's do it, the players saying, let's do it. So here we are. I mean, you don't get that opportunity too frequently. Usually it's some massive buyout, some massive negotiation. Probably still was a massive buyout, if I'm fair.
It was pretty big. I think Na'Vi made it quite easy though.
Cheap.
It wasn't as much
fruit, isn't it?
It's just
he's so proud of himself as well, isn't he?
You could just tell.
What a rat.
Oh man, go on. How big was
DeKay,
it? I'm going to be the
I've
one.
got a question.
I don't know the amount, but go ahead, ask a question.
Here's the question. Okay, the big problem I have with this Guardian move is that I've analyzed it all, did a video on it. Like, I like the move personally. I agree it's a small gamble, but I think the upside's potential. Here's the problem though. That's not even just the move, because obviously then the rumor is maybe they get Olaf Meister, maybe they get another player. So the big problem is then you have to analyze like the context of, should you have done 2 moves? Is 1 move okay? You know, so is it actually still up in the air that they might get another player? Is that still on the table? Was that ever actually, you know, a firm thing? Was it just floated?
I would say it's a pretty good chance. Not done by any means, but it's possible. And if you want me to go into that, I think it's a little bit too much of an extreme to go for someone like Olafmeister, because even though having all those stars is like a good problem to have for Kerrigan, that doesn't mean just because you have all the best players on your team doesn't mean it's going to work. I like the Guardian edition, because like on T side, Kerrigan loves his default. That's where Guardian, where we saw him at his best, was Zeus. So I like that move, and I do think it's an absolute upgrade over Alu. But I almost wish that Alu could stay with the organization, kind of like how they did with Keo and Jacob, and maybe give him like Guardian.
See how it goes.
Yeah, see how it goes, and kind of give him that threat that if things don't get better. Because I think, like, I talked to Guardian at the Pro League finals, he was like checked out. Personally, like, he didn't say so, but just from what I was getting from him, he's like, yeah, I'm playing more H1Z1 than I'm playing Counter-Strike. I got this wedding coming up.
Are you ready? DK? This is where I can give you some inside info. That's actually just Guardian this entire life, by the way, mate. Like,
yeah,
but you know when he was at his prime and he was in his god mode?
Yeah.
If you talk to him, he'd be like, I just play Dota 2 all the time. Like, are you for real? Are you a real human? You know?
The amount of times I've heard Guardian said that he would quit and become a professional Dota 2 player is quite high up there. I always just assume that
it's almost as bad as Moses, when he keeps telling me that he's going to quit becoming an analyst and become a professional caster. I said, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. You loser.
On point.
Unless, of course, you would absolutely betray and break up a lot of relationships.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway,
we knew this was going to happen.
It's all banter. It's all harmless banter. So anyway, what are you saying about
I like that move straight up, but I think if you add someone like Olaf, it's like how are you going to split up everything? How are you going to give everyone the role they want? All these star players, obviously besides Rain, if you don't have him as one of your star players, like how do you divide up where, like, if you get Olaf, you have Olaf to deal with, you have Nico, you have to also cater to Guardian, you have to give everyone their spots. I think that teams still need a Rubino type player. Like look at North when they got rid of Rubino, and look how far they fell off. I think you need a player that can play the shit spots, or the shit role as people call it, but also be good at playing that role. And there's not a lot of people.
That's where if you bring Olaf in as FaZe, that's where you have to bring him in knowing either it's going to be, well, in this kind of a situation, right, it's going to be either Olaf or Rain probably taking up the helm of that kind of a position. And that's where bringing in Olaf, you have to establish right off the bat that everyone's comfortable with it being him. And you need to just make it clear, like you have to transition, you have to play a new style, you have to play a new role. And if it works, and by the way, Olaf has been humbled over the past year playing in fnatic with not reaching those pinnacles that he's known for. So maybe he is a little bit more open to the idea. But if you can ever make the change of a player who has superstar skills and mechanics and make him play in that kind of a role, if you can actually teach him that and he transitions into it, that's such a huge benefit to have in your team. So, that's just something they have to go into it being very, very honest, saying you're not going to be the star player like you were in fnatic. You're not going to be given every single thing you want. Your number isn't going to be called in every single play. So if it works, I think it could be awesome. But yeah, it's about the conversation that has to be had and picking someone and sticking to it, because it's going to be a trial period, right?
Just to add a further complexity, because you guys are talking about whether or not a particular player will fit in the role but I mean, part of the problem is, as far as I can tell, is that Carrigan also has like a specific system in his head that he wants to play to, and at least talking to some of the Astralis guys, it seems like he's not always particularly flexible when it comes to that. So as much fun as it sounds picking up Wolfmeister as well, I think like the puzzle becomes even worse the more, like, if you add more star players, because I think most star players won't be all that flexible, so that might also cause a lot of trouble for Carrigan later on if he wants to have people fit into a system, especially if they've never played with him before. Like if they don't even know what the system is, and then suddenly they get put into it and get told they have to play completely differently. You have to imagine that might be even worse for Guardian, having played like CIS Counter-Strike for a while. Then he has to fit into this. Like, I think that's going to be a rough transition in the beginning.
Well, it's kind of funny because it's the complete opposite of when he originally joined the team, right? Because he brought Keo off the bench in place of Jacob to take away a star player style of guy and to bring in someone who's willing to do the dirty work, who's willing to be more entry, and who's willing to do kind of the bitch roles. So,
the Rubino type player.
Backwards. Yeah. Is that just what we're calling it now? No more support role, just Rubino.
I probably say it too much, but that's like the best way to describe it.
Here's the funny thing, though. This is where this will make fans hardcore fans so mad. Is a lot of fans naively think that anyone who's a pro player at the top end of the game, understands all the roles, and they understand like the concept of what a team needs, and they understand how to balance out team roles, and they don't understand that if you're like us and you talk to players. Dude, usually it's only the in-game leader who even thinks about the game that way. Like, a lot of them don't ever think... Like, the whole reason why this Fnatic lineup, to me, has been kind of a joke is because, like, they still, to this day, don't really understand that style was ridiculous. Like, that only works almost if you have the best players. Like, that's not going to work on a day-to-day basis, especially if you don't have the best players that they do now. Like, that's what happens when you let star players all just get in a team with no in-game leader and just do whatever the fuck they want. You end up with a team like Fnatic now where it's just like... It's nothing, it's okay. You can maybe have a good game, but you're never going to win a tournament. And so the funny thing is, I actually wouldn't be surprised if it's not just Carrigan, if it's the other player. I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Nico is not like, oh, cool, yeah, let's get Olofmeister as well. Let's have even more help. It's like, really? That's why I'm surprised that they are doing this move in as much as that it's Carrigan who's on board with this notion. I would think he'd be the one who'd be like, well, no, we've got Guardian now. Let's see how that goes. Let's keep Keo. He's doing his job. I'm in the team still. We've got Nico, we've got Rain. Let's just see how this works out before we start adding in more star players. It's actually weird to me that someone like him would want it. I understand it if like 19-year-old Nico's like, oh, give me even more help. I used to have no help.
Yeah. So actually, just to add a bit to this conversation about swapping out one or two players, I hope I'm not putting any words into his mouth, but I think this is actually a point that Lopez brought up a long time ago when NIP were, wanting to swap out. Well, they did swap out Fiflaren. Yeah. I think that's when he brought that up and said there's no point in just swapping out one person, because then all you get into is like trying to find someone who's like essentially like Fiflaren, just a little bit different, and that's probably not going to happen. And I mean, that didn't happen with NIP for the longest time, right? They just kept finding new people and putting them into position, and then that never worked out. So it obviously depends on what kind of problem you have in the team, but I actually think there's a point to be made for saying, sort of singling out one person and then putting him into the role and seeing did that fit, and then just keep doing that forever. If you don't have a specific plan in mind, then that's just like a weird form of trial and error, might as well just like say, okay, we have a plan. These are the players that we want. Like, give the reins to Carrigan, let him find the players that he wants, and then hire them, buy them out or whatever, and then like. Rather than just hiring individual star players for a long time, I'd actually prefer the other.
But anyway, yeah. Unfortunately, DK's got to go now because him and Dumbo have got to take that train off to the circuit. What the fuck was that sound? What was that like? Train horn being blown. Didn't you hear that?
I could barely hear it. Is it really picking that up? Sorry.
Who was it? Your house? Oh, okay. It just sounded. It sounded like out that movie Dumbo. That brilliant movie, which I love. And Anders says the characterizations of all the different races and animals is spot on. Right, Anders?
I'm into that. That's the only reason I watch Disney movies now.
You've never seen an elephant fly either, right? So
I have, but
those were mad edgy. Those characterizations, but they fucking hell
would not go down well today.
I know
at all. Like so many things.
Sad because it's a banger of a movie, isn't it? It is. It's a banger. That's like a movie. Mate, are you ready for some? Listen,
for me,
if
it's all about Pinocchio.
I think the whole reason why that Astralis team hasn't really unlocked their full potential is because that psychologist actually is just a psychologist. What she does is she sits them down and goes, how are you feeling during that match? Oh, what was your thought process? That's the wrong way to do it. I would just sit Device down and I'd show him the movie of Dumbo. It's about this guy who's got all this talent, he can fly, but he's got to find it in himself with this little feather, and he's got to meet these weird racial stereotypes and characteristics that are quite frankly jarring, but in some way through songs find inside himself the little elephant that can fly. And when he finds the little elephant that can fly, then he will win another major. See? Eat your heart out, Finnish woman who's the Astralis. Also, come on, does it have to be someone Finnish? They've already got a stereotype that they just have like no emotions. Like Device is probably like, yeah, I was feeling a bit nervous, knees weak, arms heavy, and she was like, why though? You are just playing the game. Have you ever met Alu? Like Alu, back on topic, okay? Alu is someone where I don't believe he's ever been nervous. Like he's literally the guy where because he doesn't, he's a robot. He doesn't process human emotion, does he? He just literally is the guy who's like, yeah, what do you mean? I'm trying the game. It's like, yeah, well, all right, mate, sound.
Actually, I have. I spoke to Alu about this once, and this was in the context of us talking about Chris J and his tendency to not perform well in big games.
So and Chris J being shit, yeah.
Yes. And Alu,
I am familiar.
Alu said that early on that he was very similar in that he actually had to go for like a long process of sorting himself out to like not think about the pressure and not think about the fuck ups.
So what you're saying is we need to get Jordan B. Peterson to be the psychologist of Astralis and help them sort themselves out.
Listen, this we're already deep into the simulation. If there is ever an intersection, if there's ever an intersection between esports and Jordan B. Peterson, then I'm going to officially call it. I'm going to.
Anders,
yes.
The only intersection I care about is intersectional feminism. So
Are we really going to go down that route? Listen, I've got my 3 predictions.
Don't have a choice. Twitch is promoting it, mate.
two of them have come true. Still waiting on the third one.
Actually, here's one thing I will give you credit for, Anders.
Go on.
Again, people won't have been around, so they won't know these. You have had a couple of banging predictions. Now, most of them
No, he hasn't. He's literally thrown out like 200, and 4 of them have come true.
Well, obviously, Moses. But listen, first of all, you will learn to accept the lie. You will soon find that out, my friend. Secondly, you don't win any fans by saying Anders is shit. Thirdly, and this is the most important part, I wasn't going to say that any of them were actually based on analysis or knowing the game, but essentially, I agree with you. Okay, Anders, I'll reformulate that. You have said a lot of stuff, and some of it happened. Some of it happened. Yeah. I don't know how you did it, but I think the first step, saying a lot of stuff, was probably integral. So anyway, some stuff that you have said that I will give you credit for, okay?
Go on.
Because here's one that a lot of people don't remember. We did our Reflections interview in 2014, and we did it when NIP was falling apart. Yeah. NIP was falling apart. Titan hadn't, they'd like failed the major, At the time, it was kind of like earlier this year. Everyone was like, oh, who's going to become the number 1 team? It's wide open. And I said, who can be the team? Can any team actually not only become number 1, but can they be like NiP? Can they actually dominate and be number 1? And you did actually pick fnatic, who just got Olaf Meister and Crims.
Yeah. Listen, if we're going to go down this route,
come on,
because people do say this a lot. Listen. There are some other people, of course, now think of Olaf Meister as being obviously he's a great player, so that's not much of a prediction. But people forget that he
I
was
mean, that's
like,
evened out a bit, but yeah.
he was.
There's been a bell curve on that one.
There has been a bell. It's true. So on the other side of the bell curve, when he was just sort of like, he was like known as a Swedish pop star. He was essentially like the Joels of Sweden, you know, like that weird pure Finnish player that was just like, he would show up in online games and in weird pugs, and then he would drop like, 35 kills against a top team, and then all the top players. And I remember from talking to other sort of Swedish pros at the time, they had no respect for Olofmeister at all. They just said like, well, yeah, he could do it online. Like, he's never going to be in a team. He's never going to be good in that sense. And they
were right.
I remember thinking at the time, and I was saying it too, probably that was probably not true. Like, he probably was going to be a lot better. So yeah, I would go even further back on that one with regards to Olofmeister.
To bring it back to the present period of time, there was the time that you said that Astralis would win the E-League Major.
Yes.
By the way, just to be fair, it wasn't even the E-League Major at the time. That's how long ago you said it. Like, we didn't even know when the major was.
That was
you just said it.
October of the year before.
So you said it when they just got Glaive.
But to be fair, he'd said that Astralis score was going to win the major every major since Cluj-Napoca. Like,
but we don't remember any of that though. So.
This is their major. This is their major. Going into Columbus. This is their major. This is the time.
Can we agree that if there hadn't been like a miscalculation in the simulation, they would have won the Cluj-Napoca major as well? Like,
I think so.
Nah, dude, Freiburg straight banged him the fuck out of that.
Yeah,
yeah, they
he was
lost.
Probably cheating. Did you see him play that? He wasn't even good the next day.
Oh, it was beautiful,
dude. I've cracked it.
No, that was when he spent the whole night. There was that picture
exactly.
where Freiburg was.
He was coding the game. He stayed up all night long coding a hotfix to his cheats, and they only worked for one game because Valve was breathing down his neck. Also, Flamey,
dirty Danish people.
Also, we all know. Remember the story from that team? Flamey was a mad cheater as well. So Flamey was like, "Listen, Freiburg, I've got my counter cheats enabled, and if I see you execute that, my trigger bot will destroy you faster." He was like, "If you strike me down, I'll be raised up more powerful than you can ever believe." So Freiburg had to go back to legit, and he was shit. See?
Dude, there was actually, that was a fucked up major. That was the one where. Was that G2 took Envious into like triple overtime on Inferno when like Fox had like 50 fucking kills in the game or something like that?
It was a glitch in the fucking simulation. That wasn't real.
The whole tournament. Yeah, it was fucked up.
So listen, I made my prediction around early August for the
here's the thing though.
For the thing. I made 3 of them and 2 have come true. So
and what was the third one?
Jesus Christ.
Hillary Clinton.
He wanted you to ask this question for the past 30 minutes.
What was the third one?
Hillary Clinton going to prison.
What was the second one?
Donald Trump getting elected.
Okay, well, all 3 fine by me, mate.
We're getting there. We're getting there slowly.
So, okay, here's the thing, though. There's a saying, to the victor go the spoils. So I think whoever wins, especially in any sort of a gentleman's wager, should receive their prize. So your prize for Astralis winning the major was that you got to pie Moses in the face again.
Yes.
Did you ever claim that prize?
I didn't.
I gave him every opportunity. I reminded him twice. We had like 3 events. He even bought a pie and brought it to an event and still failed to do it. So
wait a minute. Did you actually buy a pie?
Well, we got the talent
to
do it, but
Starladder.
So why didn't you do it?
I was in my hotel room instead. I just wasn't there. It was
how lazy are you?
The timing wasn't there.
By the way, the hotel was a 5-minute walk to the venue.
It's mental, isn't it? How lazy are you?
Listen, I wanted to draw it out, and then one day this guy shows up and he says, "There's an expiration date on this pie thing." I'm like,
here's the thing.
There's no way there is.
First of all, one, you haven't really set yourself up to be a sympathetic figure with the story that you had a pie on location and didn't walk up and put him in his face. 2, in a way, he's kind of right, because the theme of pies do have expiration dates.
Yeah, but they do. But listen. There's another theme here.
He's winning me over here.
Every single day in that event, Moses was just completely reamed out. He was sleeping on a couch in the green room.
Yes, he was an ROF member, yes. He's always been ROF. Even before he joined ROF, he was ROF.
I felt like I had to go easy on him, I just couldn't find it in
So basically, you know what? This is like Game of Thrones. Your mercy in letting Cersei's children live mean you will one day be pied for being a traitor, like Ned Stark was killed. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen Game of Thrones season 1, by the way.
He's had
get
many
in there.
What
do you think of the pie bets, DK? You a fan of the pie bets?
Well, what was going to happen if he didn't get it right? Like, was that part of the bet? Like, what would you get?
Hit him with
yeah. What's wrong with that?
If
I've never been pied in the face. So
DK, if
It's
any of
exhilarating.
the 15 other teams, including teams that at the time Anders made the bet, were significantly much more favoured to win the major, such as SK Gaming, Virtus.pro, if any, and by the way, Virtus.pro, almost did win the game. If any of these 15 teams had won the major, and Moses, imagine this visual, because you'll never see it happen in real life, Moses would have gotten to take a pie in his hand, not his face, and throw it into someone else's face. Now imagine that. That would be the end of the simulation probably. Like that's like, like video games where you can break it by trying to do something and it just like crashes the game, and overwrites all the code. That'd probably be like, as you threw the pie, it would just release like endogenous DMT in all of our brains and send us in a fucking hyperspace where we'd meet in the fucking Bardo with, not the Bardolph, we'd never meet inside a Bardolph. That's a classic mistake that people have made before. But meet in the Bardo. Yes. In DDK. Anyway, so anyway.
Was permanently on DMT, yes.
Yeah, I know, and has met in a Bardo. Anyway, so meeting in the Bardo, where we could meet all of the departed souls of the human race. All the favourites. You've got Hitler. You've got Chuck Berry. I believe he's dead. Who else? Okay.
Oh shit.
We've got to make... Wait a minute, though. But if we met him, he could tell us why he was killed. Oh, God. And you will now all be killed. Moses, don't go and work out by yourself later on tonight, mate. You might drop a dumbbell on your own head and kill yourself. And DDK, I know you love to shoot guns because you're American, but don't twice shoot yourself in your head, even though that's impossible, because that will be suicide if you do. So I just want to warn everyone in the chat
these
today.
Memes into esports. Why is that a thing?
I don't know why you even referenced fucking Seth Rich on a fucking esports podcast. You are mentally ill, Anders. Why have you done that? Have you ever seen, by the way, that little outro? I'll put it at the end of this one. You know that ident that I had Anders make me? Have you seen it, Moses? You weren't at the event.
I have not.
It's fucking... Just watch the end of this episode. There's one where Anders says, like, this is male feminist Anders Bloom.
Oh,
and because all lives matter here at Thorin's channel, I give you a big welcome. Why is he doing that? That's too edgy, isn't it? It's too edgy.
It's obviously only good if it's actually Anders B. Loom.
It would, yeah, exactly. I should edit it. Oh my God, that's what I should do, Moses. I could edit that.
That's just the title of the episode.
I could take the
male
bloom.
feminist Anders B. Loom.
Yes, I could take the bloom and I could edit it as male feminist Anders B. Loom, and then they'll think he started it.
Yep.
Listen, I mean, fuck them if they can't take a joke. I mean, it's got to be a little bit of fun, right? That's all I'm saying.
And that's
I
his
will say
response
though,
to BLM.
having that pie bet come down to the grand finals did make that match so much more intense for me. Like the viewing experience was out of control, and it also.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen?
You do mean when they were up 13-7, yes?
Yeah.
And Astralis was ecoing.
Yes. And then just watching it all slip away, and that was depressing.
Hey, I'd picked Virtus.pro from the start too, weeks before the major.
The problem is,
I was giddy at 13.
Virtus.pro tried so hard, but in the end, it didn't even matter.
Oh, we're just getting everywhere, aren't we now?
And see. Wait a minute. Actually, that's true. DK, didn't you actually write an article or something about Virtus.pro, or do a video where you said that you bet Virtus.pro?
Yeah, I did a video where I said.
So here's the question. I know what Moses' feelings were like. I was sat there. I got the best seat in the house. I was watching Astralis win. By the way, I also said Astralis win, but I said it at the time when that you're not mentally ill to say it, when they were actually the number one team, and then you said it. And then Moses, obviously, I could watch Astralis win the major, and I could keep flipping back and forth, sort of like picture in picture, watching Moses losing his shit, just melting down next to me as he lost his bet. And then, obviously, I don't know what you were like. So, DK, when they were up 13-7, what was it like? Come on.
Okay, I'll be straight.
Explain it to me in as much detail as you can while I masturbate. So there I was in the theatre, me and Pee Wee Herman jacking each other off. That's a fucking old reference. No one's even going to know that. That's a fire reference, by the way, but it's too old, isn't it? It's like from the 90s. It's from the 90s, isn't it? Right, come on, DK, come on.
Okay, I was in the theater watching the major, and I actually, do you remember the picture that you took, your selfie where you said, prediction God, who makes more than your dad? But you did it before Astralis had won.
Reasonable.
So what I had done, because I wanted to see what kind of shit you would give me if Virtus.pro won, I took a picture of myself with the stage behind, and I was going to put that and say, prediction God, who knows your next team. And then so I was sitting there all smug at 13-7 thinking, this is going to be great. This is going to be fire. And I literally melted on the floor as they
Listen, I've had moments. So you didn't post the picture then?
Duncan.
Fuck no, they didn't win.
I've had moments like that. Like, for example, I've had moments where I was literally about to post an entire phrase with like really complicated Portuguese Brazilian, and then the team didn't win the tournament, so I had to not post it.
Duncan, when you hear your old tweets read back to you,
it was sick, wasn't it?
Do they sound as insane?
It sounded pretty nuts, I can't lie.
Do they sound as ridiculous as when we read them originally?
You mean the idea of taking a selfie of myself, tweeting to my own fan base, prediction god who makes more than your dad? Not even just more than them, more than your dad. Jokes on me because Baron Trump follows me. Why is that a thing? And also, apparently, Baron Trump really loves Virtus.pro, and he actually burst into tears when they were horrifically killed, and he saw their severed heads raised up high at the Fox Theatre. All the memes.
There we go.
Anyway, all the memes.
There we go.
Well,
I mean,
where do we go from here?
For me, casting it was a great joy. You know, I was simultaneously casting the game and imagining Moses in the green room. My only real regret is that no one was filming Moses when it was happening. Like,
you gotta see me in the major qualifier with that Liquid Flipside match.
Yeah, I have video of that, but all of it is you can't really publish it.
Did you think that they were going to win, Moses?
What's that?
Did you think that the Liquid was going to win?
I don't. I predicted them to win, and I don't know if I thought it. I was at that point. You know, at that point, you don't really think of any predictions or think they're going to win. You just kind of hope.
Yeah.
Because they are that team that is just like that just doesn't win those games for no good reason. So
the sick thing was that I think that game alone, even though actually Electronic was nuts throughout the qualifier and the major, I think that one game is the one that's in everyone's mind that like sealed it, that like Electronic has to be on like Na'Vi or something, because that was the game where like every round in the late game you just kill two people every single time, no matter where they came from, no matter who went out, you just kill two people every single round. Like, I'm just sick then.
Don't forget about Markov.
Complete piece of shit.
How can I? You never shut the fuck up about it.
Listen,
is he secretly your dad or something? He's not coming home, you know. Was he your dad and he was AWPing, he fucked your mum, and then you were just about to be born, and then he was like, I'm just going to go out for some cigarettes and definitely AWP when I come back, and you've just been waiting like 7 years for both things to happen, for your dad to come back, Marklov, and for him to start AWPing again. You're like, please, Dad, come back. He's like, nah, son, I'm fucking with these hoes. Don't know why. That's your dad talking, but anyway, reasonable as fucking it. So here's a question, Anders.
Go on.
Even though you make a lot of big, bold predictions and you say things that sometimes come true, or just never bring up the ones that didn't come true, you don't often criticize people. So I've got a question for you. Should Virtus.pro make a roster move?
No, I don't think so. I think they mind game themselves a bit. As far as I can understand, they wrote a pretty long contract with Virtus.pro, right? For admittedly quite a lot of money, but it was like a 2-year contract or something.
It's like more than that.
More than that,
or
right?
like 4 years.
2021, I think.
Right.
They sold their souls basically, and
right. But I think. I think at least for like a lot of because at least the core of that team has won so many things. I think you could probably argue that like Snacks and Bialy at least theoretically should be a bit more hungry to sort of like keep winning. But I think if you have that kind of stability in your life, and then on top of that, like Pasha and Neo and Taz as well, like having kids and everything and getting married all at the same time, you know.
That is all. Listen, Anders, I realise I'm talking to you right now, but that's all optional. You don't actually have to get married and have children and ruin your own job and lower your own performance level and then make all the people around you who haven't got married and had kids rue their lives and wonder why they're trapped to you and chained to you. Still talking about Virtus.pro here. Still talking about it.
And back in the room.
Listen,
I believe in love.
I do, and at a cost, and it lowers performance. It's inefficient.
Listen, you have to sort your life out, save your father. That's okay. So, get married.
I mean, in your case, yeah, that's it. Anders, you're literally that's Jordan Peterson speaks to you because you want to sort your life out and save Markelov and have him up again.
There it is.
You want to go into the underworld, the flip side, as it were, and save your father, Markelov, and have him up again.
most viewers will have no idea what we're talking about. But this
That was
is
a mad reference.
It was good.
It's pretty good, wasn't it? Yeah.
So I don't. There's no way that the core of that team is. I think sort of intentionally saying, "Hey guys, we've got all this time and this long contract. Don't worry, let's just chill out for a long time." But I can sort of see why it would take a lot of the pressure off, and like I'm not sure it's necessarily good for their for sort of their mental game, and I think that's maybe what's come into it. And then then I think maybe that's why they lost a bit of focus. But I actually think the core of that team, or like the team as a whole, is still great.
Right. So it sounded like you weren't answering the question. It sounded like you were answering, will they break up or make a roster move? But on the last part there, so essentially you think that if they change their psychology, they could just be very good with this 5 again.
Yes. If they rediscover the hunger and the need to be the best, and to win tournaments. Yeah, I think so.
Here's the question.
Go on.
Do you think that one thing they could do is bring in a psychologist? Like they could have a sports psychologist sit Pasha down and say, Pasha, before the game where you lost there, what were you thinking about? What thoughts went through your head and what were you kind of planning? And then he just goes, I clicked the mouse. And then they go, no, but the thoughts, what situations did you imagine? And then he'd be like, imagine. And then they'd be like, inside your head, you can sort of see with an eye that isn't your actual eyes, but you can imagine pictures. And then he'd just be going like, as his brain just like imploded. It'd be like when, those stories that like apparently like the fucking Mexicans or whatever, the Mayans didn't have the concept of like perspective, and that when the ships came over the horizon, that'd be like Pasha trying to figure imagine. And then even worse, what if then that made him gain that power, some sort of sentience, and then with that sentience he realised, wait a minute, I'm a professional player, I'm in a team, we're shit, we haven't made a roster move in 5 years, and yet my solution is dumbbells, and not the Seth Rich way, but my solution is just keep working out and eating some sort of a hormone.
All right, Doug.
Anyway, back on track.
There was no payoff on that one.
Back on track. So, Moses, do you think Virtus.pro should do a roster move?
I'm so tired of this conversation. No. I mean, because here's the thing. I have to add a footnote. Like, I don't know who they would get. I don't know who else from the Polish scene is good enough for them to get. I think, they're as they stand, they're going to be, not great for the majority of the year, and then they're going to have their 2 to 3 months where they're incredible. They're going to have their one-off tournament that they win, and then they're going to be content with that. They're going to be happy with that, and that's fine. I think they're one of the teams that has really bought into the idea of the personal branding as well. They all have their own things on the side. Like Pasha is a huge brand over in Poland. I mean, all those guys are. So they make money through that as well. So it's not just the competition for them. But yeah, I mean, I would say yes if I knew there was a clear-cut person in Poland that would cause some massive upgrade. But I don't know. I don't have that knowledge of the Polish scene, to be honest with you.
I'll make a wild prediction at some point. Don't worry.
Come on.
No.
Come on.
No. We had this one guy, but people have already told me he's quit, so I'm not even going to bring it up. So we had one
DeKay.
guy during the DeKay.
I was going to say DeKay. Have you heard any roster rumors with Virtus.pro?
No, not at all.
Have you ever heard any roster moves?
No, that's what I was going to say. I've never heard of. Okay. And I agree. Who do you get? Like Mihu isn't anything special. I don't think he would help them in any way. And
okay, but here's the problem.
Sure.
I've actually noticed that the old approach to recruiting people, I don't know if it's just CSGO, but I don't think it works as well. Because basically the way in CS 1.6 you recruited people, this might sound naive, is it's kind of like how people like Nico and Simple got into better teams. You play in a lesser team, but you're so insanely good that you can look at, kind of like Electronic now, you look at him, you go, oh, he's way better than that team. Everyone can kind of see it, and then everyone does the mental mathematics of well, he's from this region, the next team up needs a new player, obvious pairing here, and eventually it happens. Now, I don't know if it's just that in CSGO, it's more of you can't individually dominate as much, but it seems to be only the really extreme examples that actually happen like that. You really have to be like a Nico or someone ridiculously good to stand out that much on a lesser team. Because I've noticed recently, the best example is that KNG guy. KNG on Luminosity was nothing. Dude, I watched their team. He wasn't even the best player. But you put him on Immortals, he's banging. He looks pretty sick. Same with a bunch of players, you know. You just never expect him to get that much better. So I'm kind of softening on that. Like, part of me now feels like some people also just need a chance in a better team, you know. Like, you never know what someone's like with the better players around him. Also, obviously, veterans can kind of help you improve in the game. So I don't know. I get what you mean on that one, but I almost feel like that might be like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, they can never find anyone in Poland because they make them all just play in like tier 2 or whatever, tier 3.
Yeah, I see your point. I just don't know why they have Snacks in game leading. Like, I know you got to try something different eventually, but this doesn't. It makes no fucking sense. Why he needs to be like either the star or one of your star players.
Yeah, make Neo do it. In my opinion,
that's when they were best. They were like, he was in game leading for almost 2 years.
Especially because Taz is playing terribly right now. So
yeah.
I think it'd be fun if Pasha just was the in-game leader for one event, just to see how it'd go. I think that'd be
why are you saying this?
I think that'd be so much fun. They just tweeted out and they were just like, we're just gonna test something.
He just realised how fire that whole sequence I did is. He's trying to loop back into it. He's trying to bring it back. Call back. Okay.
Oh god, it'd be so good, wouldn't it?
So what tactic are we doing? Yes. But what are we gonna do? We're gonna go slow, fast? Yes. Smile. Papa. Anyway, so do. There we go. So
yeah, I would have Neo do it. I just think that makes the most sense. He seems to be by like a really wide margin the most flexible player on that team. I think he's just got the mentality for it. But I mean, okay, if you're not going to hire a psychologist, you could still hire someone that could help Neo do research on all the teams that you're playing. You know, like why leave that up to him? Just hire like there must be 100 million Polish fans that will do this for almost no money at all, and then just.
We're not talking about killing me again, are we?
They could do that too. Just be multitasking, you know, just get both things sorted at once, and then that's it. Like,
well, the irony is, fair play to Poland. They've actually been trying to keep out people who want to kill Westerners like me. That's a reference and a half. Right?
Oh man!
By the way, shout out to Poland for that.
I have a very question. Does anyone actually believe that these sports psychologists actually do anything positive for teams and players?
Yes.
I've got a very quick answer to that, which is that if you've ever looked into, in general, concepts like psychology, psychiatry, it's that there's no uniform approach. Like, the reason why all of us don't have someone like that in every job and every area of life, and we don't just go, oh, I'm depressed, and then go to someone and it automatically get fixed, is because there isn't, like, basically it's very dependent on the person. Like, it's a bit like the concept of a coach and a team. You can be an amazing coach with the wrong team and you'll get no results. And you can be a shit coach with a team that's just really, really great and doesn't need much coaching, and you'll get amazing results.
Yeah.
But that doesn't actually say anything about either of the coaches there. So here's the thing. In a team, I would never use the logic like Astralis did, by the way, that like by having a psychologist, you know, they've helped off all of our team. If they help one player, cool, great, have them work with that guy. There might be a player in the team who doesn't even, like, if I had to guess, I doubt Zipnix gets anything out of his psychologist. That's just a personal guess from knowing him as a person, you know? Maybe someone like Device really needs a psychologist. Maybe that really helps me now. So I think, first of all, it's like player dependent, and also it probably depends on the psychologist. What's their specialty, you know? Like, if you're the sort of person who is like a very logical person, maybe you can help one guy, but maybe you're really ill-suited to help someone else. So I think people have just... The problem is, because you only ever hear about the cases where it worked and it was the good ones, it makes it sound like a universal cure, doesn't it? Like, everyone should get them, you know?
It's so weird how it's become like the go-to for teams. Like, Gambit wins the Mage, and they're like, well, time to hire a sports psychologist because it's harder to stay at the top than to get to the top. It's like, why do you have to get a fucking sports psychologist for that? Like,
exactly.
Why is that?
You've already got Dosia. Just have him be a sexual therapist and have sex with all the team in front of him while he comments. And masturbate. Anyway. So.
Jeez.
And scene.
How did we get there? Like, I feel like I blinked for a second and suddenly we're talking about
Dosia masturbating. It happened so quickly. It was just, you couldn't stop it.
Well, fair play, I suppose. No, but I agree. Like, I actually think there's. Oh, this is obviously gonna put Duncan into a spiral, but. But I think there's a good reason why maybe, you know, Scandinavian teams, or maybe like, I don't know, mainland European teams would be more like prone to having a sports psychiatrist than maybe, say, you know, CIS region teams. As far as I can tell from talking to them,
what is that though?
They just don't cry and whine as much as the Scandinavians do. Like, they just seem like they
just rage.
Yeah, to some extent, but I mean, and maybe you could get someone to fix that. But if everyone is okay with someone or all of the team raging, then it's not that much of a problem. It's only if like someone mentally breaks down from all the raging that it becomes a problem, right? So to some extent, I think some teams will not benefit that much from it. I don't know if Virtus.pro. I don't see Virtus.pro maybe having like a huge. I think they benefit way more from having an analyst, like someone who can do all the hard work. Like, I think that would be better. And I don't know, probably there's a bit same for Gambit if they don't already have one. But yeah, I suspect they do have people helping them out, helping Zeus out, whatever. So yeah, I think, I don't know, I think my interpretation of Counter-Strike players from, let's just say Sweden and Denmark, is that Danish people have a tendency to whine a lot, which can really, really bring down a team quick if things go bad. And Swedish people have a way of like not complaining for a long time, and then when they do complain, it just breaks up the whole team, and then things get really bad. Like, but either way, like those I think are issues that someone who's like trained in psychology could actually solve.
Oh my God! You know what I've just realised?
Go on.
What if they introduce sports psychologists to all these different teams, right? And not only that, they go the full route. They don't just get sports psychologists; they even do get them psychiatric help. They get them therapist sessions, and they sit down like Get Right and Forrest and those guys, and they're on the couch, and they start trying to regress back through all the career and the problems they've had and the ups and downs. And it actually turns out, remember the timing of this, Anders? Do you remember? Let's see how good your memory is. Do you remember which tournament it was where JW and fnatic had that shouting match with Nip and one of them elbowed NIP? Do you remember which tournament that was?
That was the Bucharest one.
That was the last tournament that amazing NIP lineup won during their dominant period, because then Very Games took over, and then yes, they won some tournaments the next year, but they were never quite as good again. What if it turns out the fans, the haters, were right all along? That really was a moment that needs to be brought up forever, because actually JW and Modi, by insulting and aggressively hitting Nip, actually ruined Nip and ruined Counter-Strike history ever since then. Maybe they were right. The haters were right all along.
Listen, this is a popular theory. I mean, this is sort of ancient history in global offensive terms. You're right, but people were bringing this up as like a lot. I remember even sort of seriously discussing it with people that, Nip essentially gave away a map that didn't matter at all to them, but it mattered a lot to the other Swedish players, like to the then fnatic lineup. They suddenly felt like, hey, we've beat Nip. This is great. Yeah. So yeah, maybe.
And then they were like, not only did we beat Nip, but we beat them. I reckon we could even get a guy who can't even frag in. We could get like Pronax in or something. We could just fucking style on these clowns. And then they did, and then they won a major. It was all JW's fault.
Yeah. I mean,
or maybe it was the Nip players' faults for not having the balls to throw down. Homie comes and bangs his elbow against you, you lay him flat out. A message to the kids.
Very Swedish.
To the young, yes.
That's how they do.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Swedes, they get hit. They say, "I'm sorry. How can I accommodate you, Ahmed?"
Well, that was Canadian people.
Keep that going. Keep that going. Keep that going. So
it's a sensitive topic, Duncan.
Yeah, exactly.
Sensitive topic.
Exactly.
Yeah. How would you go about this regressive therapy?
Maybe the casters need to hire a sports psychologist. Maybe that's what we need.
God, yes.
Maybe marriage counseling.
Sports psychologist, anything at this point, anything to keep everyone sane. That would be
good. It's that or drugs.
Sexual therapy with Dosia. Back to that again.
I'd hire Dosia for sexual therapy. That'd be great. That's some content right there.
He does charge 150 an hour, and you have to wear a condom.
It's the way you couldn't even get it out.
Because here's the thing. He doesn't want to have to start taking blue pills. Either of them. Viagra or the other one. Anyway. Imagine that. That is the most horrifically scary thought of all time. Dosia welcomes you in for your sexual therapy, and he's just guzzling Viagra. That is outrageous. That's outrageous. That's absolutely outrageous, isn't it? And he's just got that little smile on his face. Because have you noticed, by the way, I said this on Twitter, it's true. To this day, he's the most mysterious Counter-Strike player I think I've ever heard of. No one's ever even heard him talk or anything. He just smiles and embraces a meme of sexual virulence. I don't even know what that is. Who is he? How the fuck's he won a major now? What is this?
It is madness.
This is the simulation. Anders Dosia won a major at his worst in his whole career, and with 3 Kazakhstani players. What sort of mental glitch in the matrix is that?
Listen, have there's lots of evidence that we in fact are living in a simulation. It's not just that,
Actually, you know what? I've realised how Gambit won the major. There was that Valve update that fucked up the PCs, so the FPS was low. It fucked up the computers, so people were lagging. Well, that's like fucking Bane. You merely adopted the lag. I was born in it. That's Adren. Adren and those fuckers in Kazakhstan playing on 20 FPS on non-Steam stolen versions of Counter-Strike on high ping. They were born for this world. By the time they saw low ping, it was blinding. However, that joke would have ended if I'd have known how to land that.
Listen,
DeKay, what were the changes to Gambit and Navi going to be before the major?
Was Gambit going to be part? Because I
was
heard a
Gambit
rumor.
actually going to pull the trigger?
I heard a rumor Gambit, even if they hadn't won the major, weren't going to make roster moves.
People say different things. I don't know really what's true. A lot of people said Zeus had already said, I'll go back. And then,
to Navi?
Yeah.
A lot of people, goddamn.
Yeah, a lot of people said that. And then now people are saying, oh no, he was never going to leave. So I don't really know. But I think the fact that Hobbit still was on loan all the way until just this week, and they actually finally signed him, I think that's a little bit of evidence to it.
Yeah.
So I kind of think there is a little bit of truth to that.
Here's my question, though. Right, to most people, the idea of Zeus going back to Navi is like unthinkable because fans especially really do think this is the fucking WWE and buy into the storylines way too much. And they really think that like he would never leave Gambit and go back to Navi. What are you on about? The whole reason he was salty is he wants to be on Navi, you dumb fucks. And obviously, by the way, if Gambit's wonderful, why would he be crying about going to Gambit? Why would he be like, how dare you kick me to Gambit? I mean, I love Gambit. It's better than Navi. Like, kill yourself. Doesn't even make sense, does it? Think about that. Use your fucking brain. Doesn't make sense, does it? So if anything, now's the perfect time to leave because you go, you know what, Gambit? I only won you a fucking major with Dosia. What do you want me to do now? Cure AIDS as well? Actually, I think I might. Hasn't that been cured already? I don't know. I mean, keep trying. I'll let some of the other casters figure that out for me. Got a few canaries in that coal mine.
Duncan,
come on.
If you're the Gambit CEO,
yes,
do you make a change despite winning the major? Do you look at this team and say, well, I can replicate this, or do you make a change and say we still need
4 sessions of sexual therapy with Dosia? Anyway, no. Yeah, I've kind of already said this, but yes, I personally actually would make a change. In fact, here's the sick thing. I understand why you can't do this, because one thing I will agree upon is even if you think Gambit winning the major was fortunate, I guess would be the polite way to say it, they did still win a major. You can't really just kick someone after they've won a major. You have to at least let them have another tournament and fail. But personally, I thought the timing, if they hadn't won the major, was perfect to replace Dosia with Seized. I think that would have been a fucking obvious, on paper, upgrade, chance to improve, move the skill ceiling a little bit. I even think that would just be a move that would work for all parties. But, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
I don't know. Seized to me seems like the odd man out right now after all.
So where does Seized go?
That's the question. The only thing he has available to him is like Hellraisers or like Flipside, I guess, but I don't even know if that's an option.
Because all I've seen of Seized is all those awkward pictures on him and Nico's Twitter where he's got those like really dark areolas.
What?
Just have a look, mate. He's got them dark nips.
Why are you looking at nipples?
Where else am I going to look? I know you're just. I know you're just zoomed in on his cock the whole time. I can see a little fold there.
Yeah. Duncan, did you see that video?
He's still an opera.
Did you see that video of Nico at the club?
Mentally ill, isn't it? So mentally ill. So mentally. Why is that getting released on the internet as well?
I know.
That's not banter.
I thought we all agreed no more video footage of parties.
Just mental, isn't it?
Speaking of which, do we know who filmed that? By the way, was it Zeus again?
I think it was Seized or something. I think they're on holiday together. Nothing weird about that either. Like, I'd understand if Caesar's joining that team. Why are they all going to holiday? Right? Why?
A lot of players went on that though. Like, it was supposed to be a lot. There were a bunch of people who were getting together going on vacation. Wasn't that weird? Some people have friends, Duncan. They do these things.
Okay. So what you're saying is some people in this chat have friends and they
really
plan,
reaching here.
They plan with them during the player bait to do different things than they normally have done in their careers, and it changes their relationships and makes them stronger in some ways. Forge new bonds.
That's the metaphor, yes.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I don't know why I was spelling that out there. It's weird, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, so forget about that. So, DK.
Yeah.
Do we have anything whatsoever in terms of what might happen to Z's? Like, is anyone even interested? Is he going to go like fucking Hellraisers or something? What could it be?
If I had to guess right now, I'd guess Hellraisers. I think that since now they're probably going to lose Sticko to like Mouse Sports, and then
maybe
maybe Angel. Like they have options. So I mean, I think it's a matter of where he wants to go and what offers he has. Like I think that's going to be one of the only real options for him.
I imagine Hellraisers losing Angel, and then Hellraisers bringing in Cease and be like, "We're gonna need you to in-game lead since Navi." And he just sits down in a corner in the shower, turns on the cold water, and just starts crying. Oh, that would just be the worst.
So, but I will say one thing that would. Here's the thing: one thing that might actually work for him, even if that happened, because that's actually probably a possibility if you think about it. Even if that happened, though, I actually think it would be better for him there because, first of all, less expectations, obviously. Like, half the problem in Na'Vi is you basically almost had to be, like, the best in the world for the plan to succeed. And then, even worse than that, it's one thing to, like, you have to be an in-game leader. Oh, by the way, and lead simple. Sound. Well, I'll just go ahead and do that then. So, like, at least Hellraisers are, like, they're, like, quiet guys. They're actually pretty respectful of their elders, That might even work, That might not even be that terrible an idea. I don't see he wants to do it, though. You're right. He has just got out of fucking prison. He's not like, well, back into a minor security prison.
Speaking of prison, that's like the new.
Here we go. Come on.
I'm actually going to publish something. That's like the new era of Counter-Strike right now. Not in terms of prisons. Like how teams are playing, but these players are like stuck. A lot of them on a lot of teams. Like
it's because I legit.
Both Angel and both Angel and Electronic, like the reason like Na'Vi hasn't even got them yet is because both of the organizations are making it impossible. Their buyouts are insanely high.
I still have conversations with players to this day, and to be fair, the majority of them are MA, but some of them are European, where they're telling me and they're bitching about their contracts, and I say, well, when you went through this process, did you have a lawyer? And they're like, no. And I'm just like, what the fuck is absolutely wrong with you?
By the way,
like, how are people still not hiring lawyers? They're getting $15,000 a month. It's not that expensive.
To put it in perspective, there are some CLG players whose buyouts are the same amount that Na'Vi sold Guardian to FaZe for.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Just to put it in perspective.
Listen,
that's the thing. There's the buyouts are like they're not even established. Like at the point of the contract being signed, there's no like range that they've established. There's nothing.
There's
they're
no
negotiable. They're negotiable, but
I agree with Anders. By the way, I know nothing about the law.
No,
but if I had to guess, there's no way. Like for example, that sounds like slavery. I can't give you a salary, right? Oh, I pay you $5 a week. But if anyone wants to buy your contract, $10 million. Like how would that? The numbers don't work out.
Here's the issue. That's always going to happen until it's valuable enough to fight that in court.
Sure.
Right? Like until someone says this is worth it. Until an organization wants to buy a player and they're paying him $5,000 a month and they're establishing his buyout at $150K and they say it is valuable for me to pay the money to take these guys to court to get the lawyer to do all this and then establish that precedent. But that just hasn't happened.
I do agree. By the way, it is nuts that we could have a contract someone's signing that's like buyout $300K, but then it's like, have you spent the $200 for the lawyer? Nah, I'm just gonna skip that.
It is fucking brain dead, isn't it?
Mentally ill. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what this is like in America, but I have it from a European lawyer that there is a relationship. There's supposed to be a relationship between the salary that you're getting and your buyout number.
Yeah.
Like those two things are in proportion to each other. So you can't just make up some fictional number and pay people $100 a month and then have their buyout be 10 million because
the theme is definitely prevalent most in North America. So I think Europe definitely has less of a problem. But in North America right now, like every team, like literally every team in North America wants to make a move, but no one wants to pay because it's insanely high. Like every team wants. Optic wants to make changes. Renegades, CLG, Liquid, Cloud9.
Here's my problem with that. Here's my huge problem with that. Like, I'm actually genuinely baffled, so maybe you can answer this. Right, I made a video last year. It was in like the autumn of last year, and I made it after I had a conversation with Moses. And I actually told him that I'm actually pretty sure a lot of these problems will get solved. Because at the time, that was when actually Skadoodle was still a pretty good player. And famously, Hiko always wanted to play with Skadoodle. And at the time, you know, JDM wasn't working out. So I said, oh, don't worry about it. Because think about it logically. Let's say his buyout is too much, because obviously he'd just gone liquid. All you do, I mean, he was in Cloud9 rather. I said, all you do is, it's like sports, you know. If you aren't a team that can trade for someone, you wait till they're free agent, right? You say, okay, when does your contract end? April, right? I'll wait until April, and then I just come to you. I say, right, don't sign a new contract. Do you want to sign with me? How come that never happens?
From what I've heard, they're working on, players are working on syncing up all their contracts. I know there's a couple players whose contracts end like 2 months ahead of everyone else's, and they're just like not going to sign a contract until everyone else's contract kind of runs out. And that's kind of what I've heard. I'm not sure.
That's mainly the problem, is that they all run out at different times.
Yeah.
I'll
So
tell you
when
something,
one's a
though.
free agent, he's got to sit around.
Here's the crazy problem, at least in NA, is that like overnight this has become like ass backwards, where we have, and like it's even worse than I thought it was, because I've always known like the money goes deep. It's not necessarily like a lot, but like you can find teams in NA getting paid that don't even show up to tournaments, that don't accomplish anything, that don't actually succeed, that have no chance of succeeding. And I've started to hear like rumors of some of these salaries for some of these teams that are like high premier, like, you know, one of the bottom teams in Invite, and it's actually like insane. And the funny thing is, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, the idea, like I see on Reddit all the time of like, you know, there was that conversation that was leaked between Minikur and Stewie, where Minikur like just was like jokingly like, you guys are getting paid like 25K, or is that what you're asking for?
No
like,
way it gets that much.
Cloud9, yeah, no, I mean that's an obvious joke, but people on Reddit are obviously spreading it because they're brain dead, like that it's a real thing. But Cloud9 is one of the lowest paid, if not the lowest paid pro teams in North America.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which, by the way,
by a lot.
By the way,
like,
I will just say this as well. That's one of the reasons why, even though I do think you should judge teams relative to, you know, who they are in the server and who they could be. So Cloud9 should be better than they are, in my opinion. I will say, fair play to them in as much as, if you consider some of the placings they've had, if you just look at in terms of dollar for dollar how much they get paid and how much the European teams that they've placed ahead of, they've done a fucking great job. I mean, we can't really judge it that way. You can't analyze the game that way, you know, but there is a logic to that. That is kind of crazy, some of the NA salaries that, like, it's the shit players. It blows my mind, some of the bad players.
I've heard that Energy, I've heard that Splice are all making twice as much, if not more, than Cloud9. CLG's up there, right around
Somewhat
twice as much.
Yeah, I would say twice as much, maybe a
Then
little.
can't we solve the problem? I've told you already that I don't want Shroud to be kicked out of C9 and never be able to play. I just want him to play where he deserves to play, on NRG, for twice the money. I just want to bring together people's dreams. Shroud, I want to get you paid, baby.
Yeah.
And you're never going to qualify for any tournaments to go to LAN, so lots of streaming hours.
Oh, no.
And they're all shit. And Daps, Canadian, like you, likes moose, likes maple syrup, likes being quiet, saying sorry, and shit in the bed. Likes non-aggression.
Likes
that
Justin
sounds like your... Yeah, likes Justin Trudeau. Likes Justin Timberlake, but that's just irrelevant. Likes Justin Trudeau. Loves Muslims. Don't know if that's even true. But, I mean, he's friends with FNS. Probably Hindu, actually, if I had to guess. Don't know.
Jesus Christ.
You seek the answer, anyway, within. So, just speculating.
I'm not going to say anything until this is over.
Then again, though, why do people always ask that if Nico is a Muslim? Like, I know Bosnians in theory are Muslims, but come on, mate. I mean, have you seen the videos? Do you think that looks like a Muslim? And by the way, I'm not in any way calling for militant radical Muslims to kill Nico for haram activity. So I said I'm not. I said I'm not, Moses. I'm not doing it.
We're getting so edgy here, aren't we? This is going bad places.
It's a player break.
Yeah, right. What else? What the fuck else?
And it's a sanity break. So, DeKay.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about like FaZe contracts? Because with the old team, there was always that claim that like people like Jacob, part of the reason why apparently they were like super depressed is like if you joined FaZe back then, you used to have like a fucking 3-year contract, something mental, and again buyouts that were like, you know, so bonkers, like, you know, you were never going to get bought out by like, you know, Dignitas or someone. I mean, obviously in his case he did go to them, but you know, that's the sort of scenario that we in theory thought. Do you think they still do that? Is that the sort of shit that goes down there? Does FaZe even know about like Counter-Strike? Do they just let the players decide these moves? Do you give us some?
I don't know. Everyone seems to assume that like the FaZe content creators run the team, and it's completely separate for the most part. And I think there's a huge trend now to sign teams for multiple years. Rather, it always used to be everyone got signed for 1 year, and now it's more of a trend of like 2 to 3. I would say 2, but with FaZe, I think it's 2 or 3 years. I think that's accurate. And so I would say, their buyouts are high, just like every other team right now. Like the way salaries have increased lately, it's locked so many players in. That's why I don't like the issue right now. Like I published that Mixwell was going to actually go to Mouse Sports and he had a really high buyout. They were going to pay it. It didn't happen. It's not like he can just hop off and go make a team with Lowell or something, or make a Spanish team, or just hop and join any other team. Yeah, someone has to pay for him, or they have to wait till he's a free agent. He's stuck on Optic unless someone pays for him.
We've seen that a bunch. Sean was in the same situation when he left Cloud9.
Tarek
was in the same situation. JDM was almost in that situation. So I mean, it's just the reality. That's why like there's got to be. I don't know. These buyouts are just way too crazy, I think, in my opinion. Like a lot of the numbers we hear. So, yep. Always a problem. I got nothing to say about it. Years.
I mean, there are obviously a couple of esports lawyers that are out there that, you know, I think everyone knows. Like, all of the players surely must know them too.
They do.
And, like, it's, like, how easy is it to, like, attach your contract, you know, to an email and say, you know, what's your rate? Can you read this for me and tell me what the dangers are? Like, it's actually
players have come to me and said, hey, can you look over my contract? And I'm like, sure, but I don't know the fine details of the law. You need to actually talk to a lawyer. But players come to me all the time and say, can you look? And it's like, if you want, but I'm not going to know if there's some weird wording in here that's going to fuck you over for 3 years. You need to go to the professionals.
I mean, that's the issue, right? Is like they have to be there at the start of the contract. They have to be there like when it's signed. It's not like you can just go to a lawyer and say, how do I get out of this contract? That's not really the way it works. So I've referred a couple players, NA players, to like to some esports lawyers, but like not nearly enough for how we're getting signed. And the real tragedy of it is I mean, the pro players are just idiots for not doing it at this point, but it's like the next tier down. It's like the second tier players who are just like, you know, some 16-year-old kid playing at FPL or a rank S and is just like gets an offer to join a team in a contract, and they're like, here's $500 a month. Your buyout's going to be $200,000, but all he sees is the $500 a month. He's like, finally, I'm getting money to play Counter-Strike. I can put professional CS player in my Twitter bio. I can do it.
I mean, there might also, I don't know how this works from an organizational point of view, but say you are being contacted by the representative of some like big organization, like now we're using FaZe as examples, let's keep doing that. You know, FaZe contacts you, and then they have this offer, and they say, we're ready to go, ready to do this if you want. It might also be frowned upon a little bit if you say, okay, but let me just have my lawyer look through it. Like that sort of sounds like already that, and if they're really young guys, they might not want to sort of like test that relationship before it's even begun, right?
Yeah, they might think that it'll jeopardize the opportunity, and they just want to hurry up and sign. Yeah,
that's one thing though. Just as a side point, I just want to make this a point of emphasis. Every single interview and tweet that you ever see from players who are in teams that they're happy in, they're enjoying their time, is along the lines of like, oh, our manager and our owner are so cool. They take care of us. They love us. Every single owner of every esports team, I just do it for the players, man. These guys are like family to me. I just want to see them succeed. Why the fuck are you setting buyouts at 200k and locking them in a 3-year contracts exactly then? Sounds like you're almost doing it in your own self-interest only there. You're literally Joseph Fritzling kids.
Well, the funny thing is, everyone says, "Oh,
you're not." Wait a second. I just want to say to DK, when I said that they're literally Joseph Fritzling kids, I would like to retract that and say that I just meant metaphorically that as a joke, they're Joseph Fritzling kids. No, please don't sue me, any of those team owners. I definitely don't want to imply that they are literally Joseph Fritzling kids, even though I've said that 3 times.
Fertile ground for comedy, right there. I like it.
Yeah. Well, everyone says like Hex on Optic is such a good owner because he'll let any player leave. But I've seen Mixwell's buyout, and he's not just letting him walk right out of that.
I can tell you that he definitely didn't let some of those players leave to Team Liquid and Cloud9.
Yes, exactly. So everyone likes to say that an owner will let a player go, but it's not true.
What I'll say about that is he's good at PR, and if you You don't leave the cartel alive. Do you want to end up ahead going on a tortoise across the desert?
Heard very many stories about players who's like in contract negotiations tried to bring lawyers and the owners either just said no, or like the nature of the discussion changes as soon as they say I'm going to get a lawyer to look over this contract. That's when like it starts to get a little bit nastier, right?
Okay, here's the thing though.
I don't think you can refuse someone the right time and lawyer.
You definitely can't. That would be against the law, obviously. No, but
this is esports we're talking about, Anders. Esports.
All right, yes.
Here's the thing. I agree, especially that the best place to attack this is the young players, because they're the ones who get themselves into the bad situation. But that's the one that is ridiculous. It's when it's someone like Nico, okay? Right, Nico, you were just in a situation where your buyout was way too high and you were locked into a long contract and they wouldn't let you go until everything was met. Now, you are, like, at that time, you know, one of the best players in the whole world. You are desperately wanted by FaZe. That's where you do say, I'm going to have my lawyer look at this and help me with the contract. Because they will say yes. They won't go, well, fuck you then. We're getting Smiths. I had to pick a ridiculous example. Absolutely mental example. Sorry, Carrigan, listen, sorry, mate. Yeah, Nico was playing hard to get, but I've got Smiths. What? It's okay, I've got Smith, 3-year contract. 200k buyout. At that point, Smiths is going to have to get Seth Rich because we got to get out of this contract. Again, I'd like to retract that. I don't actually mean that Smiths will be killed by Hillary Clinton or the Democratic National Convention. Or whoever indeed killed him, or if he just suicided.
Listen, I'm not going to try and turn this whole thing into that. But did you hear that Seymour Hersh audio thing that was on YouTube?
Sure.
That's outrageous, isn't it? What is going on? All right, I had to bring that in.
Here's the thing, though. Let's bring it back because, like Sheila Booth, he will not divide us. So, and much like
did
Kathy
he go
Griffin,
to prison?
He broke.
Prison, isn't
he? Yeah, he got arrested.
How can he be in prison when he's just done that movie like Borg McEnroe or something? Or was that filmed before he went to prison?
Yeah, I think that's.
No, I think he just got arrested for being drunk. Didn't he? I don't think he actually went to prison, Anders.
How did he lose his mind so quickly?
4chan broke him.
Yeah, how did?
Imagine if he appeared doing the Kathy Griffin. He broke me. He emotionally broke up. By the way, that was so funny. I was crying laughing at that. I love seeing a broken woman.
Okay.
Who's called Kathy Griffin? You know, square brackets. Just leave that way you need. This is the worst episode ever, Moses. Really is, isn't it? It's just unreal. It's unreal.
I don't think 40 was a good place to end, wasn't it?
I know,
40
it
was a good place to stop. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when the lawsuits start to roll in. Excellent. I'm glad to have been a part of it. I'm glad I was here.
All right, here's a question, DK. Obviously, you always know roster moves that you can't quite publicly necessarily reveal at the moment. So I notice that with all these roster moves going on, there is a conspicuous lack of NA rumors. Why is that?
Like I just said, it's every team wants to make a move, but the organizations won't pay. They can't. There's a lack of free agents. Like the players that are free agents are shit. So what move are you gonna make?
Oh, holy shit! You just heard it here first. Shroud is a free agent. There we go. There we go.
But yeah,
he tied it all together.
I hate to go back to that same point, but yeah, that's why.
Okay, I have a question. We're talking about analysts and we're talking about sports psychologists and all the rest of it.
Where's this going?
Where are we ever going to have like people that have a proven record of talent scouting? I mean, just like looking for
Oh, I thought you were going to say, should we have buyouts for casters? Like if a casting duo...
Jesus.
How much should the person who wants to join or leave pay?
Why are we doing this? No, but like, you know, talent scouting is a thing in other sports, right? And I mean, if you're in that problem where, you know, everyone has 200 or 300k buyout, then, you know, why not go and
wait a minute? You're not tying this into the fact that you've referenced that I discovered Pauf and Electronic and Olaf Meister and Marklov 10 years later.
Pay me.
So if Cloud9, if you're out there, Jack, was to pay me to tell them who to hire, and just actually hired all 50 people I pick and then just keep the good ones. Imagine if that was his sales pitch as well. If you just sign all of them, eventually some of them are going to be good.
Yeah, that's it. I'm on the market.
Okay. I agree. By the way, here's the problem, and Moses can address this. That is already something that those teams desperately want. They've even talked to people like us, but we're all doing this job, so why would we go and do that,
Yeah, it's a lot of
problem,
obviously
right?
a lot of time. Like that'd be sick for like someone. I mean, you have to imagine for all we hear about like someone like I'm a Pet, how many demos he watches.
Yeah.
Like that you would have to do that for just like one player essentially. You'd have to just spend like a week watching all of his demos, locating his skill set and everything like that. That's just a lot of time. And I don't think there's even a market for it quite yet because unfortunately we're still in a situation where players control teams. So if you're a talent scout, you're like this guy's nuts. This guy's like got all the skills. Players look at him like, nah, he's shit. Nah, we don't want him. So then, like,
there are some mad stories about teams and players. Teams who were like, we will never play with that guy. He is shit.
Well,
and by the way, some of those cases, that guy then went on to be, the best player of all time, or like, next year just wrecked everyone.
I mean, Anders just told the story of fucking Olaf of all the other Swedish players being like, he's not going to do anything, like ever, like he won't be good enough, and it's just like you can't trust players to make those decisions because. On some level, they don't. I don't know. I struggle to say they're idiots, but sometimes they are.
No, sometimes they just put personal feelings in the way. Like famously, someone was just a douchebag to them, or they don't. The famous one. Here's another good one. The reason why a lot of the pro players, even when he was a very good player, like in Fnatic, didn't respect JW, is because they really had the logic of like a Reddit fan of like, oh, he's just lucky. He plays like an idiot. It's like it works like a motherfucker though, doesn't it? So come on, mate.
I mean, look at NA Rank S. There was that clip that was on Reddit today of Semphis, talking about why Rank S is so bad, and there's a lot of truth in this. Is it's like all the top players in the scene that play Rank S just do retarded shit, and then when they get called out for it, they're just like, yeah, but everyone else is fucking doing it. Like you can't play a normal game because everyone else is running through smokes, and it's just this self-fulfilling, like perpetuating cycle that is just like you are all brain damaged. Please just fix your shit.
I will tie this into your own point you were just making before. Semphis, I'm sure he'd admit this. Well, I don't know about that. He might not be that self-awareness, but he was one of the famous examples of a player who was established. Who, if you asked him about any young player who now, by the way, is on Optic, Team Liquids, killers now, he would be like, "Nah, they're just onliners, just bullshit. They never make it online." And all those guys are killers. I mean, dude, before CLG got good when they had that first lineup. No one respected Tarek. They were all like, it's just a streamer, he's an idiot. Like, the guy's a killer. I mean, admittedly, he had his problems. It took him a while to get really good. But you got to try talent like that at least, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it is kind of like the issue is it was always like a rite of passage when you were a player coming up to the ranks and coming up to the scene that like you got to give the new guys shit. It was very much like almost like a hazing type situation, but you definitely had people who took it too far, who just thought that there would never be like a younger player that had any talent that was able to overcome them, like that. You got to call everyone onliners, and you had kind of this like sphere of safety around you, the safe space perhaps, but. You as a player who's like getting older and everything like that, you can't just look at every new coming player, and as a coach or as an analyst or as someone, you can't just look at every single new player in that jaded way that players do. You have to at some point accept that there is a player that shows promise and see if you can bring those skill sets into your team and utilize them properly, but none of the players want to do that at the moment. None of the players want to.
Older teams always use that terminology of like NIP, Virtus.pro, they're always like, oh, you need fresh blood. When you have the fresh blood, it kind of like pumps everyone else up and everyone else kind of feeds off it. What if they actually are psychic vampires and they actually need to literally, because when you join a team and you get to the top level, it's really scary, so you adrenalize the blood, and then they actually do drink that guy's blood, and that's why the young players who join,
what they give them DMT and then
exactly, yeah, and then just have a feeding frenzy, sucking
digital
him off.
Blackface.
Why do you think Hobbit is?
I often refer.
Why do you think Dosia got better? Exactly.
I often refer to Duncan as the Alex Jones of esports. I think that's it's accurate.
Listen, I just want to know when they're going to bring a demon, like lower realm entity through an AI and have it possess Simple. And I think I just cracked it. I know who Simple is. But anyway, so anyway. Anyway.
To the point of Moses about rank S, all the North
As though you need
American
to
players-
clarify that it wasn't to my point about a demon AI.
Yeah.
Was a
I have to.
yeah, about that. Come on then. Yeah.
They all bitch about practice and how much it sucks, but like
That
every
is
team
good,
bitches
isn't it?
about it. Like you're all just bitching about each other.
No, I
having
love that,
terrible
dude.
practice.
I love that because that's like this. You talk to Cloud9 players in interviews. Yeah, practice in Europe so much better. They take it seriously. They turn up, they don't cancel scrims. Team Liquid players in interviews. Yeah, practice in Europe so much better. NA, terrible, yeah. Players from Optic. I find the practice in Europe just a lot better. Players from CLG. The thing about Europe is they have a real practice scene. If even just you guys all practice each other, you would have enough of a scene.
Yeah.
Nah, it's all those other guys. They're all the
There's
the
no
cunts.
There's no self-discipline in it to
mental, isn't it?
to affect the changes, and there's no leadership figure in the scene. There's no like fallen type guy or who can just step in and just say, listen, fuckers, we're doing it this way. These are the changes we're going to make to our practice, and no one does it. Back to the point of buyouts. I just want to know. I know you can't give specifics, but if you took the top 5 buyout prices you heard, what's like the average price across the top 5 buyouts?
In North America or everywhere?
Why don't we do one for North America and one for Europe?
Well, North America is probably the most. Like I would say the average price for the top 5 buyouts, like 250,000. And that's not even for the 5 best players. We're talking third best players on the 5th best team.
Dude, for 250k, you could just pay on the dark web to have all your rivals killed. Why buy a player for that? It might not even work out. You pay on the dark web, but they definitely die. Again, I just want to retract that. I'm not saying that people should have all of their rival team killed on the dark web. I mean, for a start off, waste of money. Just have a couple of the star players killed.
So $250,000 for the 3rd best player or the 5th best player on the 3rd best team, whatever the fuck it was in North America. What are the European buyouts?
I would say 150,000, 100,000. There's significant. I wouldn't say significantly less, but a lot less average wise. Like Sunny going to Mouse Sports was cheap, super cheap, under 100,000.
So you could buy Sunny for Mouse Sports, or you could buy a souped-up car that could be stolen.
Yeah.
Which would you prefer? I'd rather drive around in Sunny for Mouse Sports. You can't even steal humans. Well, you can. Human trafficking and that. Again, I just want to retract that. I don't think people should human traffic Sunny for Mouse Sports. Although in many ways Penta did. They actually received money to send him to Mouse Sports. Obviously, by the way, how has no one made any jokes yet about the fact that Germany is just constantly importing humans to their country? And yet, ironically, Sweden haven't really opened those borders, have they? Yeah.
Nope.
Haven't really brought anyone in. By the way, I actually think this will sound like a big topic, but I do think after looking at what's happened with like FaZe, etc., that is the obvious solution. You can't sit around like the French scene and the Swedish scene did, where you're like, oh, we need in-game leaders. Who are you going to get? We don't have any, so I guess no one, and just keep doing this for 2 years. No. Well, at that point in time, I get it. If you had a Swedish guy, it would be better to have 5 Swedish players. If you don't, get someone from another country. Get like a Danish guy. Like if you're NIP, have you ever thought of just having Snappy be your in-game leader? You all speak fucking English.
Someone should try it.
I
agree.
Like I agree if you can get them all from one country, sure, then you get the cultural benefit. But the reason why, like Penta's the best example. If they'd had to make a team of only people from Germany or one country, they could have never made a team that could get to the major. But you take in, Sonny, suddenly you can do something,
Yep.
That's why I made that tweet today. It sounds like a ridiculous one. I mean, it is ridiculous in the sense that, dude, every other French player now speaks fluent English. Why does Existence not speak English? He's even a mega intelligent guy. If he spoke half decent English, stop wasting your time in the French scene trying to get like Shocks to want to play with you or MBK to come on board and feel. You could be on Mouse Sports now, and that could be like a top 6 team in the world.
Yeah,
it's mental, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, well, I don't know if we brought this up before, but I think what's really crazy is you remember what people always criticize Existence style for back on Very Games is that it was like very good, but it took an enormous amount of resources for him alone to do it. Yeah. And back then, no one had the resources to hire analysts. Can you imagine what Existence with an analyst would be like, or even like 2 or 3? It'd be unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Oh no, the funny thing is that's one of the stories that NBK told on my second reflections with him, which is the infamous loss that they had when they came into the major, the second major, EMS One Katowice, as the favourite to win the tournament, and they were in that group, if you remember, where they lost to Virtus.pro early, but obviously Virtus.pro turned out to be amazing, and then they lost the decider to Hellraisers, so Dosia, Angel, those guys, and famously they lost it 16-14 and on Inferno, and what happened was, in the story, I don't remember all the details, but I'll link this video and you can go and watch it. The story they tell is, because they were trying to do the most exhaustive research any team has ever done, where they literally prepped for every opponent and every map, and everyone in the team had a job where they had to go and watch demos. And you're going to love this, because it was actually Smith's job to watch like Hellraisers on Inferno, and apparently he just sort of like pretended to have done his work and like mailed it in, and so he just didn't give them like, oh, they're going to do this, and then like they just didn't, and they lost 16-14, so... That's a perfect example, right? If they'd have actually had someone competent watching that demo, or someone who actually watched the demo even. I wonder if Smith was just like, just kept just making it up. Like, he's on the back of a fucking like receipt for like a baguette or something. Like, oh yeah, they often go B. Stack B. And then they went A and he was like, what the blood? They've never done that before. It's like, Dosia, of course, fucking everyone's dreams up again.
No, but can you imagine trying to do something like that in this schedule that we have at the moment? With like, imagine trying to prepare for the major as a player that where you guys are going to do that, but you the week before it you have Cologne, and the week before that you have the major qualifier that you have to play in. Like,
yeah, so stop doing that shit.
You can't. You have to hire someone.
Do what Flipside and Gambit do, and just don't show up for all that shit, and just play in the major.
You can't do that either, though, can you?
Oh, by the way, I just want to point this out. Since
you can't, if you're SK, you can't just take every event off and just do the majors.
No, they don't.
Like, you're being paid for your brand exposure, for your individual brand. Also, you want to build your individual brand, and you have to be at the tournaments to do that, so you can demand higher salaries and higher paychecks. So, I mean, it's like a weird double-edged sword that they have going on right now.
Yeah, just most of them then. Keep three.
All right,
something.
all right. There we go. Yeah.
I actually think, by the way, if you want to talk about a perfect example of what I talked about before, like the hypocrisy of the owner who will be like, yeah, I love my player and I just want what's best for him. Well, go ahead and explain to me the sort of mental gymnastics you're going to have to do to explain why it would be better for Electronic's career to play for Flipside than for Na'Vi. I'd love to hear that one.
There isn't.
Yeah. I can't do those gymnastics.
It's almost like there's no warmth in your heart. Then again, your name is Frost.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
speaking of low-hanging fruit.
Those negotiations are rough right now. That's why it's taking so long.
Bit rude calling him a fruit, but he has acted in a rather flamboyant manner.
I think to go back to Anders thing, because this is I've kind of been like I've kind of been thinking
Frost,
about this
but he's
for a while.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Hold it together. Hold.
Back to Anders' point.
Back to the Anders.
Of not necessarily going to every single event, but like I think, and this also goes back to like having that talent scout. I think there should be two. Like if teams had like 7 people on their roster, right, and they had like 2 like super young players who haven't played a whole lot that like aren't expensive, you pay them like a little bit of a salary, and you pick events to have those guys go to in place of your players. So some of the smaller, more insignificant events, like you go to them with 2 guys that you don't normally play with at the majors, and you give them like a week to prepare with the squad. You give them a week where they're practicing with the people, a week of playing. You give them the experience, you see the talent. Then you can either sell them if that's a profitable route to go, or I mean either way you're building up, you're developing, and you can find skilled players in the future, and you can throw people in if someone's having a bad streak, if someone's in a slump, you bench them, you put one of the other guys in who's playing very very well, who's hustling in practice, so to speak. But I think that'd be kind of like sick if there's 4 events in the span of 2 months, and then for like 2 of those events you just have the substitutes play for 1 or 2 people.
Oh, I love the idea.
I think that would work for Virtus.pro.
I just think that the big problem... Yeah, by the way, that would actually be a good move. Keep all the 5 players and bring in the 6th and then try them out, and then you've got someone inside. The problem with that is, though, that requires a greater sense of time, like a macroscopic view of your team that no team has. Like, to this day, I'm amazed how many Counter-Strike players will react off 1 loss on LAN like in the most drastic manner possible. Probably the most ridiculous one. I always go nuts on this on Twitter and people don't get why I do it. I don't understand teams who lose on their like second best map and they're like, right, we're not playing that for the rest of the tournament. Like, it's your second best map. You've been practicing it the whole time and the other opponent isn't going to do exactly the same. And if anything, hasn't someone just shown you the flaws on it? Like, you can just, you've almost got a better chance of winning it next time. Like, people will do that. So even though it's a meme that like, oh, why don't you just save strats for the major? You almost should. If you're going to a small tournament, like if you go to DreamHack Summer, don't waste fucking everything that you could have done at ESL 1 Cologne 2 weeks later. Are you an idiot? But even the best teams in the world go 100% at every tournament they go to, and it's life or death, and you would kick a player. I mean, luckily they don't because of these contracts, but some of them would kick a player after like 2 bad tournaments, you know?
Yeah.
It is kind of mad, isn't it? Like, that's what's weird. What's funny is, I mean, I'll use an example of myself, okay? It doesn't in any way actually change my motivation or like the amount of research I do or how much I want to see the game if you like triple the amount that you pay me for the same event. Like somehow that isn't actually connected. Like I'm sure a lot of people have found this. It doesn't matter. Like you could pay me 10 times more. I would do the same research as I did if you gave me $100 if I actually had enjoyed it when it was $100, you know. Like somehow that doesn't connect, and it's the same with pro teams. It doesn't matter that you're paying them all loads of money and the contracts are super safe. That doesn't seem to actually change how people behave as people, you know. They still just have the same reactions. Like for example, if you ever sat down. This is how you know humans do react off instinct and habits. They don't really like think logically. Like if you ever sat simple down and said, think how much money you make and made in Team Liquid and making Na'Vi. Now think how much someone your age in your country with your level of education makes as a job. And now think about, you know, the bad times you had when you were stuck in Flipside, and think about how things have come forwards and you're unbanned from ESL. If you laid this all out, then if he was a rational person and a robot like people on Reddit pretend they are, where, you know, they'd make the perfect move, he would never ever rage at anyone. He'd never do anything toxic. He'd be a great teammate. He'd be so happy and grateful, but he can't be because he's just a human. So he reacts the way he is because that's who he is as a person. It's the habits he's built up. So while I totally agree with Moses' point there, I think it's a banging point and it would definitely improve the scene. I just don't know how you could ever convince people to kind of come on board with that. You know, it just feels too much like a pipe dream to me. You know.
Yeah, I think that would probably be hard to sustain, and I think on just to go all the way back to the Virtus.pro thing about them having a long contract and being very sort of comfortable. I actually think that's what happens to some people. Like I agree, if you tripled my rate for an event, that wouldn't impact how excited I was casting the game, but.
Because joke's on them. You always thought it should have been tripled.
That's too.
And there we go.
Avenue has been tried.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, I think
you merely adopted overpricing for events. I was molded by it. I was overpricing events at EMS 1 Katowice 25.
I can't handle Bane Duncan.
Keep going anyway. Yeah, keep going with the story.
So no, I think I think that actually happens to some people is they start to become like instead of sort of playing the game to try and instead of the competition being the thing that drives it, like trying to be the best and everything, there is like I think for some people that becomes like a platform where they're like, well, this is a very comfortable life and everything is just great, and then they forget about that, and I think that also explains sometimes why we see those results where like. Especially after like big wins and stuff, why teams just crack out, why they just can't do anything because they even if they don't want to, they feel really comfortable. I guess the ultimate one is winning the major, and then along comes the next big tournament, and you just completely screw it up. And I don't think anyone is like consciously saying to themselves, "We're not going to care about this tournament." But I mean, I think people become a bit too confident and maybe a bit too like some of the competition gets lost a bit in the high salaries and the just general leisurely lifestyle, if you want to call it that.
I've always said, by the way, that's like the problem with, like, here's the thing, okay, first of all, this might sound like an esoteric point to make, but when you write something, the amount of time you have to think about what you're going to write and how you formulate it and all that stuff, it's very different from like speaking live, for example, where you just have to do it on the fly, And so it's also very different from acting. Like, we all know that if you ever go and read the YouTube comments, like, if say there's a video, right, of someone, someone on a bus is harassing someone, every YouTube comment's like, I'd have knocked him out. And like, well, yeah, but you don't think all the people on that bus would say the same thing. Yeah, but when they were in that situation, they didn't, because you just react and you're a person, right? So we can all sit back and try and pretend like we're all super rational beings who do all that stuff. But in reality, in the moment, especially think about competition, like emotion, all the thrill of the game, adrenaline, like the fact that, like, I've always thought a classic thing that interrupts with roster moves, like for and against, when you talk about the top level, is how memory is like really tricky. So for example, say you have a teammate who used to be fucking super good in clutches. He always used to like save your ass in clutches. That's now like programmed into your brain that like, oh, I have to have that guy in. He'll always like come through in the big game. So it doesn't matter if he doesn't do that anymore. That's in your brain that he does. You'd have to almost show that guy like 50 bad games of him, like, you know, as footage, like fucking open his eyes like Malcolm from Clockwork Orange and be like, look at Smiths. I don't know why it's always Smiths. I guess it's just me trying to travel back in time 2 years and show Shocks, look, he can get you the water and be friends outside of the game. Please. Anyway, enough about that. So I'll just say it like this, okay? No one actually beats their wife because the food was cooked badly. That's just a human reaction. It could happen to anyone. That's not about, by the way, that's not about Smiths again. That wasn't connected. That was unconnected.
Bloody hell.
By the way, you'll love this, Moses. I just want to take your reaction from this. So think about the problems G2's had recently. Think about the problems they had at the major. Think about, like, at their best, how they play, and think about, you know, some of the bad games we've seen them play. So there was an interview that Smiths did where he actually said that Shocks is basically like doing a fantastic job as an in-game leader. He's doing everything right.
Well, you hate to hear that, don't you?
Well, not if you're Shocks. You love it.
No, I'd be pissed about Shocks.
That's why I love that, bro.
Why is he still in-game leading? Why is that still a thing?
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know. I don't get that.
Like, why is that? That's the thing. That's like that. At some point, there needs to be like a team meeting where they're just like, all right, guys, we've given it a shot. That works. We've given our best player the in-game leading duties for far too long. Let's switch things up.
Shocks, listen, it's been awkward. I don't want to have to bring this up. We've been thinking it for a long time, but you are hurting this team. Is it the drinking? I stopped already. No, that was a different intervention a few years back. It's about the, you know, you putting players in roles they can't do. Smiths, he's not even playing anymore. No, that was a different intervention. You're getting, listen, stay on track. It's about the in-game leading. You can't keep doing the in-game leading.
Why does he want to
about my went up? Anyway,
why does he want to in-game lead? Is the crazy thing.
I mean, that's another one of those things where it's like, listen, again, why are we getting the sports psychologists in just for the game? Get sports psychologists in, sit them all down. Virtus.pro, why is Snacks the in-game leader? Shocks, why are you in-game leading?
It's like so ass backwards to the rest of the community. Everyone else is looking for someone to be an in-game leader, and G2's just like, can we not have him be the in-game leader?
I think he just thinks no one can do it better.
It's probably true.
Maybe Shocks is just a butterfly dreaming he's a man who's an in-game leader because his surname is Papillon, which means butterfly in French.
Does it really?
It does. It's true. That's what it means. It doesn't mean he actually is a butterfly dreaming he's a man, but that's kind of your wheelhouse there, simulation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all in.
Maybe this is just all the dream of Shocks.
Do you guys remember that?
If it is, though, why do you keep dreaming me just abusing your mate Smiths all the time? That's kind of fucked up. Why are you doing that, Shocks? It's your fault. Everything I do is Shocks' fault because it's all a simulation in a dream where he's a butterfly dreaming all this up. Evil bastard.
So unbelievably convoluted.
Also, why did you dream up ISIS, Shocks? Fuck you. This is a disgusting dream. Have a nice dream, you evil bastard.
Listen, do you remember
They behead people, Shocks. Why are you dreaming about that, you mad cunt?
Fucking hell. Do you remember that Gfinity where...
Come on, bring it back, yeah.
Shocks he was still playing with Kyoshima in that team. Was that the what fucking team was that?
Envious.
Was that Envious?
Yes.
It was before they shuffled, I believe, right?
Yes, it was Envious.
All right, yeah.
And they won. They won, right?
Did they? Yeah, maybe they did.
Tell me more about the tournament. I'll tell you.
So anyway, no, I remember I had a conversation with Shocks where he said one of the most frustrating things for him is whenever he would die early in a round, and he would watch his teammates play, and he said, "I wish I could pause the game and just play for them in certain situations." And I think that's obviously not a good thing if you have that feeling watching your teammates play, but I think maybe that speaks to his mentality when it comes to sort of, Counter-Strike in general. Like, I'm sure he does feel that way, but that's not necessarily a good thing.
So he's basically got Yankoitis.
Yes.
Bit of an inside joke there, but I think you can all pick up what I'm kind of saying there.
Excellent. Yeah, that was going to be my next point.
That he had Yankoitis. Well, I've predicted you well there. Yeah, that's almost as good as your prediction. That,
Which one?
Astralis would win the major.
I am proud of that one.
But here's the thing: you're not psychic because you didn't predict that Moses would take away that pie bet and renege upon it like a bloody.
Listen,
No. Like
fucking Littlefinger, little turncoat.
No reneging. I gave him 3 events, and I'm not going to attend every event throughout the year. Just wondering, is this the event I get hit in the face with the pie? I'm just, I'm not having it.
Is that not reasonable? Is it?
Yeah.
To just go the rest of your life never knowing when a
Yeah.
pie will be launched from the darkness into your face.
Because that's the next step. That's the next evolution of this. Is Anders just waiting around the corner and just hitting me in the face, and I'm not even fucking ready for it. So, not letting that happen.
I just thought Moses was a man and that he would, that he wouldn't back out of that. I
Definitely
just assumed
not.
that was how it worked, and then
He's half a man. Moses to be played by Tyrion in the movie adaptation, or whatever that guy's name is. I don't know his name. I don't give a fuck. He's Tyrion. That's it. In fact, I actually think he shouldn't even be allowed to leave the set or ever do any other job. He should only be allowed to be Tyrion. Because he was in other movies. Remember, he was in that wicked X-Men movie where he was just like a little guy, but he just had a mustache. But he wasn't that good. He was just okay, wasn't he?
He was in a Nip Tuck as well.
But was he?
Yeah. He's in a season of Nip Tuck. Oh, you didn't? Okay.
Didn't watch that show. No. Speaking of people who need plastic surgery, Anders.
yes, go on.
All 3 of us were just like, which one is it?
I know exactly. Yeah, it's true. I'd left it open there. Me, I need to have my penis reduced.
Yeah. I was hoping this would go somewhere. I was hoping I wouldn't be left with this kind of situation on my hands.
Yeah. Okay. What? My penis? Which is too large on your hands? Well.
Am I the one doing the surgery? Because I have to say I'm not qualified.
Okay.
But
if you actually, DK, come on, give us something else roster related that can spark discussion.
Let's talk about the iBay Power guys.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I think they're going to do anything, but
you don't think they're going to do anything?
Well, I just think it's going to take a long time to get to a point where they're competitive, even in North America, because you have days who I can't remember how the time periods go, but I don't know what maps were out when they were unable to, like, before when they were able to play. I don't know if we were still on the 5-map thing or anything, but I think
we'd already gone to, like, Overpass and Cobblestone were well out by then, because it was like, but actually they hadn't been reworked. That was like the first tournament where they were used was ESL Cologne, which was August of 2014, and they were banned basically like very beginning of 2015.
Okay. Yeah. So I think they're going to struggle a lot with map pool because they got to learn the new Inferno. They have to learn Nuke, the new Nuke, and then I just think not only are they behind individually, but as far as like maps go, and then the next question is what they do for teams. Like if you have Daze who says he's going to play with Brax and play with AZK, how long has AZK been playing Overwatch? It's been like a while. He hasn't played CS for a couple of years. So I just don't think they can get. There are, like I'll say, there are rumors of them trying to get, like everyone saw that he or they asked Stewie if there's any chance that he could play with him.
Wasn't that just a joke though?
They were serious.
They were serious, actually.
But why would Stewie 2K do that?
I don't think he would.
I mean, they just threw it out there because
I think that they're exploring all options. So, but my point is, I don't think they're going to be able to convince one of those players to come with them. So they're going to have to pick from, like, you go with like Peter as your op and like some other up and coming kid as your 5th player. I don't. What can you do with that? To me, I don't see much happening.
Maybe they could get. I know what I've solved it. The person they need to get as their 5th player is they've got to get that kid from Gamers, because he already knows some of the NA callouts. Reference.
Oh,
He doesn't know it, but he already knows all the NA callouts, Moses.
the callouts from like 2001.
Your era, yeah.
Yep.
Our era. Back when it was fine to say that. It's different times.
That was fun
Different
when the
times.
cameras started showing up, and they're just like, one tournament, they're just like, well, we're going to need you to not say that out loud anymore. There are cameras here.
Luckily, that's never happened to me in my career, so
Yeah.
I have survived. In many ways, I'm the spirit that lives on.
Although we have come dangerously close at times with hot microphones and whatnot. So
Yeah.
it's been a couple of moments.
I will never forget that E-League hot mic because I just think back and that almost that's like where one of those.
Which
things
one?
where
The one where you're talking about UK,
the house pricing, yeah.
the housing prices in the
you
UK.
just shudder to think of some of the things that could have gotten out on that hot mic.
in the green room, especially, it's like, oh, not even.
I mean, put it this way, not even just me. Anders could get completely reamed out. Some of those green room ones where he was just going like he's hinted at some of the stuff he's talking about now. Some of the political shit he was going in on. All I'm going to say is it's a type of food in a gate. Look into it. Look into it.
I don't want to be killed. You know, luckily
No,
I don't.
no
I
one
don't
does.
obviously. I obviously
No one
don't go
does.
anywhere near the gym, so I'm going to be fine on that front. But
Plus, no one does get killed anyway. It's all just conspiracy talk.
yeah,
You know, there's a well-known phenomenon that when people are about to testify in a courtroom, they just spontaneously kill themselves.
happens all the time.
But maybe that's because secretly they are actually men who are trapped in women's bodies, and transphobia is what makes them kill themselves.
If I'm iBuyPower,
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Which gender would I change to? Why did they never try that, by the way? Because
yeah, you can't turn them down in that situation, can you?
yeah, just dude, Dazed, hit me up, bro. You don't even have to have the operation. You can just win every one of those ESL tournaments. Any key, you'll fucking be banging it.
Yeah.
Just win every any key tournament.
Um,
Talk shit on them while you do it as well. Yeah, you ain't a bad bitch like me, are you? Yeah. I don't even got ovaries. I don't know why that would be trash talk. I'm obviously not a woman, am I? So I can't make up women's trash talk.
you have no idea where to go, do you?
I've already told Anders I'm only going to become trans if either I really need it to get out of a jam or the military start drafting men. I'm a coward. I'll just become trans instantly. If I have to not go and kill ISIS fighters or get killed myself, I'll become trans tomorrow. Don't dare me.
That's the next level.
Sadly, these are the sorts of conversations we do have a lot of. But
Yeah, these are the kind of things that.
That was like a preview of what could have got out on the hot mic there. Yeah, you're right. That was a butter-tame preview. Yeah.
If I'm on that power, I put this out in a tweet. I think like last week, where I think it'd be very cool if what they did was just if they just turned into the farm team. Like, think of all the buyout prices that we just listed off. Like, what if those three just grab 2 young players who have skill, teach them how to play within a system, teach them how to play. They get to go to all the ESL events. It can't be that hard if like to qualify for some of these ESL events in a region where, you know, Cloud9 probably gets invited, Liquid maybe gets invited, like CLG and Renegades are the 2 teams that are usually fighting for that qualification spot. For those 3 to take 2 players, qualify for some, do good at one of these events, show some potential in these players, and then get $100,000 fucking buyout and just split it between the 3 of them. Like that. Why don't they just do that?
They could.
That'd be baller.
I don't. Yeah, I think the issue for me is just how well they perform. They're gonna get an organization. There's tons that are interested. They're gonna get paid. But if that's what your plan's gonna be, then I think that it could work easily.
I had a funnier idea though. What would be so
did you,
fucking
Duncan?
baller? This would be genius. Is if they got a team together, they practiced, they got pretty good, they actually qualified, for example, EPL, you know, they make it to EPL, like 6th place team or whatever, they win a few games, and then everyone's getting hyped, they're believing it, wow, he's back, Dave's back, Brax, the young legend, and then they just actually purposely just throw the game, bet on themselves loads though, like 400k each, and then they win like $2 million each, and then they even just come out like, haha, dickheads, you unburned us, just like fucking throwing up fucking middle fingers on the way out, wrecked, suck my dick ESL. That would be straight baller.
Here's the thing. I'm not
Don't you think that's
so-
pretty sick? You didn't see that coming, did you? We never could have seen it coming. Bloody hell. And then Daze literally walks out and just says, once a cheater, always a cheater. Fuck you all. And then he just leaves.
Obviously a rat.
Yeah. Listen, if Phantom Lord can come back, anyone can come back.
That's
inspirational. I like it.
I'm not so much worried about what DeKay said, their performance, like, to start out. I think they're going to be all right. They'll get there pretty quick, I guess.
Well, if you're playing in North America, yeah, good point.
I think the biggest thing is that if there was anything good that came out of this ban of those guys, it's that the mythology behind them since they've been banned is like, I don't know where it's come from, but why does everyone all of a sudden think that iBuyPower was like this savior of a team that's gonna like this like giant killer that was gonna beat all the Europeans? They never made it out of the group set of the major. They had massive internal issues, and they had some skilled players. Tactically, they weren't extremely diverse. They had a good in-game leader in Days. They had obviously Swag, who's very talented, but he wasn't like destroying the competition like everyone seems to think he will with more time.
Isn't that the maddest one? Like, here's the one. The reason why I get the Dazed one is because obviously NA lacks in-game leaders.
Yeah.
But even so, they overrate him. Steel, I mean, they overrate him as much as he wasn't in-game leader at the time, so that never made sense to me. But what's bizarre is people might think the Swag one's the one that should be the least weird one because he was a very good player. Dude, people talk like he was Cold Zero.
Yeah.
It's mental, isn't it?
I think he had like one good series. There was that one against NIP, I think.
Yeah, for context, Katowice 2014. For context, Swag was like in fact, let's try and think up one. Think up a reference now for what sort of Swag was like, relative to the whole world's amount of players. Because I would personally say he was like sort of not in terms of playing style, but in terms of how good he was. Let's think. Who would he be similar to? Because the whole bit is you don't want it to be like a truly elite player. No, it's like a pretty good player, like an up and coming player, has some good performances, some not so good maybe like. Put it this way, I don't even think he was as good as like Oscar is now. Because Oscar like hard carries that team, was like fucking beast. Who would he be similar to? Like maybe like Magisk or something. Like the whole point is it's not some bonkers player. It's like a good player. Let's see how they continue, what they can do.
Yeah, but he was also only 11 or something at the time. So like, I don't know. I this is obviously I don't know. I think he was. I think it was. I would say it was obvious at that point that if he had not got banned, then he could have kept playing with any team for a certain amount of time.
Could have improved.
Yeah, then he would be one of the like I think that's also why people talk about it so much. I mean like
it's a what if.
Yeah, it's the what if factor.
Right, but it also comes down to like keep it in check, right? Like this was a team who had one good tournament. I think it was that Face It, whatever stage it was, where they beat Envy.
I mean, they had the ESEAs as well, but they
won the ESEAs.
They only had a couple. Right. Yes, they had a couple.
They won the 2 ESEAs and then the Face It one. But outside of that, they didn't do anything. And actually, even going into one of the majors, I mean, this is the funny part as well, is Swag, if you remember, was the one who like led the charge to the mutiny to like kick Daze and Steel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
that
brought
ungrateful bastard
and brought in Desi and Nitro.
Is it Anger or Desi?
No, he brought in Desi and
Nitro.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then they got banged out. Who was that they lost to? They won first half of Inferno like 13-2, and then they lost the second half 14-1. Was it Penta? Yeah. That was like the Unreal game, wasn't it? But yeah, I mean, like let's just keep it in check. Like these guys aren't going to be some like second coming of whatever fucking team you think of in the past that's just going to destroy everyone. This is a team that's probably going to struggle to be the best in NA. Quite frankly, like they'll get good, but like to be able to beat the Cloud9s and the Liquids, I think they will struggle. And
I tell you this though, if you want to make that a cool story, here's what I would do. Say they get for a real org, like someone who has money and resources.
I think they will.
You have to make a reality series about them doing the comeback. If you have any brains in your head, you have to make a documentary series that follows them around, going to the first tournaments, because the whole point is then even if they bomb, everyone's going to watch it. Dude, I would watch that fucking series,
Yeah.
I would watch the series where when they lose their first game, Dave's like, what more can I do? What more?
What let's think about this more philosophically, because I know like one of the other big conversations around these guys is should a team pick them up to be a player or an in-game leader or a coach for everything except the majors?
Here's the problem with that. This will sound like a very weird point.
There's plenty of problems, right?
Okay.
Like the question is, should they put up with those problems in order to make it happen?
Well, this is actually why DreamHack, E-League, ECS have saved Valve's arse. Because if every league except the majors had unbanned iBuyPower, E-League is more money than the major.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about like a Cloud9 level team that isn't going to win the major anyway, and you could play every tournament except the major with Dazed, I'd say do it tomorrow. Try and win ESL Cologne and E-League and ECS. You'll win way more fucking money than the major. Sounds harsh, but you would.
No, well, I mean, it can't be about the money. I mean, majors, despite the fact that they're not the biggest money purse that
you hear that, Anders? It can't all be about the money.
It's got to be about.
Listen to this guy.
It is about like the competition. Like the players want to win the major. They want to have that under their belt. So
sure. I mean, it's not going to happen for Cloud9, but
no, probably not.
But it's true. Everyone has to have the dream. Hence why Renegades would rather go to a minor than get their shit pushed in at fucking EPL every year.
Yes. I mean,
that one took a second to click in.
Listen,
I think there's another problem here.
I'd rather have a nice finish in a minor than get my shit pushed in. Counter-Strike.
I'm not going to go anywhere.
Anyways,
Asian minor, of course, Duncan. Asian minor.
Listen,
as well.
the competition can be pretty tight. But the thing is, maybe the reason why they like to go to those tournaments is like why I used to like living in Korea, because then they're like, oh, so big, oh. Gave me an ego boost. I don't get that with white women. Anyway, Western tournaments, that's hard.
Jesus.
Reasonable. Unreasonable. Let's have we should just rename this show Reasonable or Unreasonable. And then there'll be like a meter at the middle that swings back between. And then it just goes like, it goes like sort of like one of those things that measures volume in a studio. Don't know what that's even called. And then it just goes to like red when it's unreasonable.
I think it would just be stuck there.
Could be.
Listen,
like the Asian minor, anyway. Unless someone's got like a fucking one of those. What do they call them? That gets like your foot out of like a shoe. What do you call that?
What? Shoehorn?
Yeah, shoehorn.
Oh, yeah.
Unless someone's got a shoehorn.
That's to get your foot into the shoe, not out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
that's what Dosia has to use.
Don't I think work on vaginas, but that's great. Listen.
Wait a minute, did you just assume my gender?
That is quick. Just
reasonable.
Power pass. Get to your point.
Okay. Listen.
Come on.
Let's just say we ended up living in a world or in a different part of the simulation where.
So that's just accepted now. It's like a reasonable statement, right? Keep going, yeah.
Where all the tournaments, not just ESL, but the other tournaments also end up unbanning them, and they play in all of them. Think of how much pressure that would add on Valve's shoulder to unban them, because let's say they actually do what you just said, they start winning all the different tournaments. Like then, everybody's going to say, please let them play in the major because we need to see if they can actually compete, at the highest level and all the rest of it, Like
that could, by the way, that could even get like press attention. Say esports keeps getting bigger. Like imagine this: you win so think about the major we had this year. So in the run up to it, we had the ECS finals, we had ESL One Cologne. Imagine you win all those tournaments, and then some mainstream journalists like, wait a minute, why aren't they at the major though? Oh, they're banned. They can never play that. What? They're not like, that would be a story, and Valve doesn't want to hear that story, right? Even though I agree, it's got nothing to do with whether ethically you should unban them. It's not good PR, and as we all know from ESL with me, if something's bad enough PR, sometimes you have to go back on your decisions. You have to bend the knee.
Oh god, I'm not even.
That would never happen. Valve's. Can we just stop with those hypotheticals? I don't even think they would change it under those circumstances.
I don't think they give a fuck.
They don't. And we've all had these conversations, so I don't know why you of all people, you two, who have talked to Valve directly about this, why are you guys doing this? I would have to deal with it on Twitter with all the other random.
I invoke the R8 clause. No one knows what Valve will do at any time, including Valve.
No, I do know that they will never unban those players from the majors.
Maybe Moses is the secret power behind the power.
You want to put a pie on
Valve? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, sure. This will expire to infinity, so you will never get to do it. So absolutely, let's put a pie on that.
Here we go.
It'll just be like your blue balls pie. You'll never get to do it.
Moses.
What's that?
If there's no statute of limitations on this bet, so Anders gets forever that if Valve ever unbans iBuyPower, he pies you.
Listen, there wasn't a statute. There wasn't a statute of limitations on when the bet itself would expire. He had 4 months with 3 events after he already won the bet to do it, and he never did it. And that's
how long does he get? How long does he get for iBuyPower to be unbanned? How long does he get?
Forever.
He can do it whenever he wants.
Yeah, but then you can't.
It'll never expire.
You can't ever win the bet.
What do you mean?
Well, you
No,
never
I'm
win
saying
because it goes forever.
That's a good point. Let's say
Only he can win. I mean, I realize you've just lost all hope, and in most bets you feel like only he can win.
I do feel that he's the
you've got to make a side for
Let's
yourself.
side by
at least,
the end of 2018. End of 2018.
Ooh, bold. What do you think, Anders? You feeling that?
No.
2019.
I was only enjoying this bet when I was the only one that could win. I think that was the.
I think we've discovered the dynamic to your relationship there.
I feel like that was when I was.
But I mean, the main point. I mean, fuck off with the pie bet. But the main point is that this is just not going to happen. They're not going to get unbanned. Okay. And I don't know why people keep telling. Like, I get tweets all the time that are just like, Valve will eventually unban them, and Valve should definitely unban them, and it's just not going to happen. I have spoken to the devs about this at 3 separate majors, and they are not going to unban them. They see no reason to. That's that. And by the way, it shouldn't have to be like some constant fight, because they have events that they can now play, and like we should be happy that they have what they have at the moment.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's also just a matter of seeing if they even pick it up and do that. Like, there's obviously no point in fighting for them to be able to play the majors if now they get unbanned playing this, and then they never do it. Like, then the last part of that discussion is sort of meaningless, right? So yeah, I guess we'll have to see.
I have to imagine ECS is going to unban them, since they use days.
That's the only one we don't know about.
Oh, I've just thought of a sick idea. So the community, a lot of people in the community are quite vocal that they want iBad Power unbanned. They love iBad Power. They love swag. Some people like Steel and Dazed. In general, some people funnily enough, people seem pretty ambivalent on AZK, and not just because he quit. I don't know why. He just never really inspired emotion in the same way. People don't hate him, like they hate Steel, etc., but they don't love him like swag, even though he's in the same situation. So here's the idea I have. Here's a great concept. So they can never actually go back and unthrow the game. Like, that's obviously not possible. And so the only way you can ever unban them is in a world where you believe either in the concept of rehabilitation. And if you ever look at fans, I mean, it's a problem with young people. They apparently don't think it's even possible to ever be rehabilitated. The ones who hate them, like, I just hate you forever, and we'll judge you for things years later, even though it was a StarCraft talk show and you were just talking about CSGO and you didn't know you were going to Portnet. Oh, wait, they weren't doing that. That's, something bled over there. I don't know what that was. But anyway, the point is, since they can't be rehabilitated either, I've got a solution. By doing acts of good, they can get closer to being unbanned. So we're going to have a crowdfunding system where once they raise like 25k for charity, that unlocks ESL tournaments. When they raise like 50k for charity, that unlocks like DreamHack. And if they keep going like that, once they've raised like 2 million for charity, I don't know, something for downers or something, I don't know. Anyway, once they get like 2 million for that, a good cause. Because I want to help whoever they are. Once they get the 2 million, they get to play at majors again. Isn't that pretty sick? Well, or are you in favour of people just having that illness and getting untreated?
What illness, Duncan? What did you call it again?
Yeah, everyone heard. You can go back and replay the VOD. If I've learned one thing in my career, Moses, you only have to say something once and people can just infinitely rewatch the VOD, so I don't have to repeat it, I took enough chances this time. What do you think of that idea?
Well, Steele already said he'd give up his salary and all his prize winnings to play again if Valve would unban him, but I don't know if that'll help anything.
I wonder if there's a loophole where he's just like, ESL have unbanned me, not Valve, so I get to keep my salary.
Oh, no, I think in there.
No, I think it wasn't salary. It was his prize money. I think that he.
Oh, just prize money.
Yeah, because I remember he was doing that. He won some small Toronto land and donated it to that charity as well. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's a cool idea. It's not going to happen, but it's a cool idea. Nice no, but
that's the what I'm doing there is using politics, because here's the thing: I don't believe Valve. I actually don't, by the way, control this conspiracy theory. I don't actually think Valve cares about it on ethical grounds. My personal reason why I think they kept them banned forever is because they're trying to use the scare tactic of like, well, rather than us having to police every single person on banning them, on doing throws, if we just say we ban you forever, that will actually put a lot of people off doing it. That's what they think, at least. My opinion. So in my opinion, the way you change Valve's mind, it's like a politician. Most politicians don't actually do things because what they ethically think. They do it because that's what's expedient and that's what people want from them and that's what the business interests pay for. So do the same thing. The point of what I was doing there with that joke about the charity is then you could spin it like, what, Valve? Don't you want a charity to get millions and get helped? You know, no one's going to be like, yes, fuck that group.
Yeah.
I mean, that group's been fucked enough by life as it is, so, you know, give them a break. Come on, Valve. 2 million. Think about what you could do with 2 million.
Yeah, I mean...
They don't think in millions, Duncan. They think in billions. It's the only thing that registers.
I've got an idea. Think about it, Dazed. You make all that money streaming. Start streaming, right, for a whole year. Get Brax streaming, get AZK streaming. Save up like 500k, buy Bitcoin, and then when Bitcoin goes 10 times bigger, you will have more money than Valve. Buy Valve, unban yourself, you dumb cunt. Simple. It's not even hard, is it? A little baby could do that. I mean, what kind of moron would lose money at Bitcoin? Probably someone who needs that charity to help them. Absolute cretin. A dribble. I'm out. Right, anyway, so any more topics on this episode? I think we need DeKay, is there anything else spicy to do with rosters that we can spiral out of control on?
Spicy? Not really.
How about something unformed? Is there a team where, like, for example, you're surprised there's just never any roster moves around these teams, or, you know?
I think a majority of them that need to make a move are, like, especially Navi, like, they're making their moves, but I think in the Swedish scene is where, like, we need to see more. Like, why the fuck is Pronax not in-game leading and Twist is in-game leading at events? That's actually happening.
That's real?
Yes, that's real. Twist in-game led at whatever last event the Godsent played, it was Twist in-game leading.
I don't know.
Like, how's that even still a team? Yeah, I'm not impressed.
The joke, obviously, there is that no one's actually told them the spoiler of the end of The Sixth Sense, which is that actually they see dead people because they think Pronax is alive and in their team. He died about a year and a half ago. What are you talking about? You've only had 4 players in the game. I mean, it's mad that these tournaments are letting you play with 4 players, but they let G2 do it for a year, so... Everything has to go back to Smith. It's just that is just low hanging fruit. He doesn't even play anymore. I still can't shut the fuck up talking about it.
Poor guy.
Isn't it? But at least I haven't lost money at Bitcoin. So, well, here's the question then: if Fnatic loses Olafmeister, what happens?
They could lose Olafmeister, and another possibility is Dennis too.
Why though?
Apparently, the core of JW, Flusha, and Crims want to stick together and want to play the game a different way than the other two, and that's why what's kind of led to this possibility of Olaf
here we
leading.
go again.
So what does
So, like, the only thing
Dennis also has a child, because apparently everyone in Counter-Strike isn't aware you get this little piece of, like, rubber that goes over your dick and you don't then have to pay to keep people fucking alive. Have you ever heard of fucking tissue, your hand pulling out, condom, just tripping her down the stairs?
Don't take sexual... Don't...
Listen, they get paid a lot of money now. Accidents happen. I didn't say to do it again. I'd like to retract. I didn't really mean to trip your possibly pregnant girlfriend downstairs. It was but a joke, Your Honour. And also, it's a coincidence that she then fell down the stairs. Anyway, right?
And scene.
I mean, yes. I mean, Swedish Counter-Strike is in a stupid place right now. I mean, I just don't even know what to say. Like, I can't actually find a reasonable explanation why, for one, the talent that they have can't get it together, but also why isn't there more in up and coming talent? Like, I'm excited that Draken and Rez are playing well. Like, I think that's amazing. But there should be, I don't know, there should be like 5 or 6 more up and coming Swedish players that we haven't heard about that are just like on the verge of breaking through. Like, where's Config? Where's Maggie Square?
Well, the lucky thing is, right, Swedes, the downside, the catch-22 is Swedes have shown us in general they only want to play with other Swedes, other people who are from Sweden and have Swedish passports. And they at the moment lack good in-game leaders, but apparently there is a large influx of military-minded people coming into Sweden every year. So sooner or later, someone who believes, that if he wills it, will take over a team.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in for episode 40 of Counterpoints. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you all with us. We'll see you next week.
Hello, I'm male feminist Anders Bloom, and because all lives matter here at Thorin's channel, I give you a big welcome.